Call this meeting to order.
This is the runway, it's the building.
Hey, guys,
5 feet away.
let's go for the roll call.
Bob Wilkerson,
Here.
Will Harris,
Here.
Mike Hill,
Here.
Brad Carlberg,
Here.
Beth Perry,
Here.
and Terry Arceri.
Here.
Okay, has everyone had a chance to review the minutes from the April 15th meeting?
Yes.
And does anyone have any revisions to it? Hearing none.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes from the April PAC meeting.
Okay, and who wants to second? Okay. We have a motion and second. All those in all those in approval, please say yes.
Yes.
Here, yes.
Opposed? Okay, motion carries. Anyone have any changes to the agenda?
Just a discussion that like another business, if any, like dealing with meetings and just making sure I understand bylaws and what have you. Should be fairly quick. I think I could go under other business.
Okay, this is Jeff's stuff. Hey, is there any other changes?
Question.
Sure.
The proposal for what is it? The pilot process, is that on
Subcommittee.
here? Is that on the agenda?
Yes,
Oh,
it's item
first
number
portion.
4A, I guess it is. Okay. All right, so who wants to make a motion on this one to revise the agenda?
Motion to approve the agenda as revised for Jeff.
So you made the motion?
Yes.
Okay, and
Fine, I'll second it.
okay, it's been moved to second. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Aye. All those opposed, motion carries. All right, anybody have any conflicts of interest?
None? With this group?
No.
Okay. Good. Next meeting is gonna be on July 15th, same bat time, same bat station. All right, staff updates.
And so what, there may not be a meeting on July 15th since I'm out of town, so unless Kel's running a meeting by yourself, they're probably gonna be present. So,
Well,
I have nothing in the hopper for you guys, so yeah, it sounds like July will be, yeah, a free night.
Should we accelerate it a week? Or there's a lot on the plate coming up, and you know, as we look at the whatever we're calling here, the plan, your pilot process, there's just a lot of topics coming up. We have the comp plan coming up. You know, we haven't had a lot of feedback on some of the approaches, the subcontractors. Can we afford to miss a month?
So the schedule for the CIP, the pilot program, I put that in place with regard to me being gone I'm actually gone for 2 weeks. So I did put that in place with that in mind. And I don't have anything from the consultant saying we'll have anything for sure by July anyway. Additional other than this meeting.
When do we expect something from the sub?
From the contractor.
Yeah, from the contractor.
So countywide planning policies will be the next thing coming up soon. It's going to be going through our departments for review. And then after the departments get it, there'll be, if there's any revisions based on department review, then you guys will get it, as well as we're going to do an interagency review. So that should be coming up beginning of July. So you will have something beginning of July to review. It just won't have a PAC meeting for public discussion again.
Maybe I can.
Go ahead.
So the question is, we have this projected extended projected schedule, project schedule. And it looks like to me that we're running a little behind. Do I understand that correctly, or? I mean, for example, phase 3, if I understand the Gantt chart correctly, by July 1, anything and everything except one little minor piece related to phase 2 or phase 3 is completed. And that deals like with demographics, that deals with plan and policy review. Projections of land use analysis, the checklist. And we haven't worked any of that.
So we do have the consultants will be giving us an update, and one of the updates does have the calendar, so she can speak to that a bit and give us an idea of where the.
Okay. So if I understand correctly, that means that wouldn't occur till August.
The consultants at the meeting tonight.
Oh, tonight?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
She's online,
Okay.
so she's gonna give us an update on that schedule and where they're at and,
Fair.
you know.
Okay.
What I'm hearing is the commissioners would, I would say this. Rather move forward on SIP activities and having a commission meeting taken out is not really to our liking. Is that a good summary?
I'm definitely concerned. I mean,
Mhm.
I'm kind of one of these, I don't like to wait to the last moment to do everything.
Mhm.
I'm naturally like to lay back and not, push, but at the same time, we got this project and there's a Gantt chart laid out and
Mhm.
I'm concerned. And if it's not an issue, when we cover the schedule, fine. But at least at this moment, it looks like an issue.
So the other thing, if you remember, we were talking about is the possibility that we'll have to go to doing 2 meetings a month.
Correct.
So that most likely will happen.
Okay,
So, but I can't have meetings if I don't have enough material for you guys to review.
true.
And I do figure that we're probably gonna have to double up our meetings. So.
Okay,
As long as our concerns are understood, that's,
I think that.
Yeah.
Okay. Does any other commissioner have any issues or concerns?
No.
All right, hearing none, I guess that concludes the staff update. Sure.
One other thing I want to say, I wasn't for sure that the consultant was going to be here tonight, but they are going to be here. So on the agenda, you see some approximate times. So I only had 15 minutes for her update, but it's probably going to be a little bit longer because she has a lot of discussion material that's going to take a little bit longer. So we'll try to get the short-term rental workshop going at least by 7:30ish instead of 7. I just wanted to give you an update on that.
Yeah, we have an extensive agenda. You're right.
And I would, if we're looking at 2 meetings a month at some point, the sooner we can start to throw some proposed dates out, the better, I think, for all the, for you, for everyone, so we can say, oh, okay, it's this Monday or Tuesday or whatever the answer is. The calendar's getting full. Yeah.
I will have a meeting with them.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. Any other business?
yeah, 2 quick things. In looking at our bylaws for the PAC, if I understand correctly, a quorum is not until we have 4. So if any 2 or 3 members get together and discuss anything, that's not considered a meeting, right? Oh,
Well, actually, Robert's rule says if you don't have quorum, you cannot conduct business. That means motions.
right.
Which you guys are not, for that subcommittee, you won't be it'll be coming, what you were working on.
Yeah, and I'm back.
To the PAC.
I'm backing up, not to the subcommittee yet, just the general committee.
Mhm.
Because all I want to do is make sure I'm clear so that when various members or I talk about something, that I make sure that it's not a meeting or it doesn't look, appear, or match a meeting by our bylaws.
Off the top of my head, I'd have to do some review on it. But the Attorney General's office has training on Open Public Meetings Act that you all should have taken.
Right?
So I would definitely look at that and then we can talk about it.
At least my understanding to that extent is it looks like up to 3 of us could discuss things without being a meeting. Because the
Well-
quorum is not formed until 4.
Yeah,
We
so.
would not be able to vote on business.
Oh, yeah,
Oh,
no, I'm talking about just discuss.
So let me be. I think what you're saying, Jeff, is you're looking for a formal position to make sure it's right. And I'll be real frank. You know, Bob and Jeff and I were at Tip Cap and afterwards sat around and talked for a few minutes. We did not propose any motions. We certainly didn't take a vote. We didn't have a quorum, but we were standing there talking. We were talking about items from Tip Cap, but it potentially impacts the PAC or has influence on the PAC as we look at comprehensive plan. And we just want to make darn sure, because one of the things we said is, are we aligned? Are we, meeting the expectations of the county? Are we meeting the rules of the state? And so I think you're asking, are we?
Right.
And so if someone can answer, if we can get some feedback on that, we just want to, because, we were invited to Tip Cap and we walked outside and talked to each other. Is that a problem? We need to, make sure that it's not, we don't believe it is, otherwise we would have walked our other directions. We're just verifying that. Am I saying that right, Jeff? I mean, I'm gonna put it right on the table.
Yep.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, if you could, and an email, whatever the guidance is, we just want to make sure we're, being appropriate.
And then a takeoff of that is, it's always been a little confusing to me on emails. When you know where I'm going. And again, if the same rules apply, just like this morning, the email we're asking about an FAA spec.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
I'm pinging.
What I'm trying to do, what I want to make sure as much as we can, it's not a perfect process. But the public, I think, expects us to give it its best, unbiased, neutral till the very end as far as making a decision, that we have an open mind, open process to the whole thing. And I don't want to give the public any idea that we're, meeting around the bush, we're meeting around this, and that we're making decisions, ahead of time to when we're not. But I want to make that, because we're in a very potentially contentious type areas, dealing with different things that are coming up here in the next few months. So that's my concern.
It's as much about perception as reality. Reality is no decisions are made, but
Right.
we want to make sure the perception is clean and that we're meeting the laws of the state.
Actually, perception's even worse than actual activity.
Right. Right.
Watergate told us that.
So the same thing, if there could be some clarification on the email side of the equation to make sure we're clear on, stay clear on that too. Because
Thank you, Mariah.
please, thanks.
Keep us out of trouble.
That's it.
All right, anything from other commissioners?
Not for me.
Okay, thanks. All right, public comment.
We have one in the back. Other back.
Come on up here. You get the guest chair.
Is it all right if I stand here?
Yeah.
All right.
Thank you, thank you. Ken Van Buskirk, I live up in Belfair. Regarding your conversation just a second ago, I suggest you probably have staff run that by Tim Whitehead. He'd be the best source to clarify that. Looking at your bylaws, I'm not sure what that is. But anyhow, I wanted to mention, this isn't regards to anything on the agenda this evening, but I attended a commissioner candidate forum last week up in Belfair. And the current chairman of the county commissioners made some comments regarding rezones and public process that in my opinion were inappropriate and inflammatory. He said, quote, "We rezoned up on top of that hill," which is the northeast part of the Belfair urban growth area. "We rezoned on top of that hill up there, and you didn't know about it. Wait until you see what's getting rezoned on top." Again, that rezone on top of the hill is going to change your life up here. End quote. He also sounded like he was collaborating with one of the other Commissioner 2 candidates to come back and talk to the Belfair community and change that rezone. And I assume that he was talking about the Belfair Planned Action EIS. A lot of people, including myself, put a lot of work and comments into that EIS. As a former member of the Planning Commission, it was very disheartening for me to hear that, as I know how much work it is to be on this committee. I appreciate the work you folks are doing in regards to comprehensive plan update. And I don't want you to get distracted by this sort of political rhetoric. And I think the PAC should fact check his comments and call him out on it. If you care to watch, go to Mason Web TV and look at the political forum last week. It's about 31 minutes into it. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yeah, you guys.
Anyone else? You can take the podium or you can take the chart.
I'll go to the podium.
All right.
I'm an old triple. Someone you guys is good. Don't start the clock here. Hi, everybody. My name is Randy Lewis. I'm a proud graduate of Shelton High School and Mountain View Grade School. I was encouraged to see the survey go out to the community. I believe questions need to be discussed with the community. What do we want Mason County to be?
Which survey?
It was on, I saw it on Facebook. I only saw one survey, had a couple questions on it.
Maybe the comprehensive plan survey? The community vision.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure, because there was a short-term rental survey, there'd been, I just want to make sure it was a comp
No, I
plan
think it was
survey.
more general.
Okay, good. I just wanted to make sure we were
Don't
dialed
see
in.
that much 3 minutes.
Blame me.
But I believe there are questions that need to be asked with the community. I think more of that would be appropriate. What do we want Mason County to be? What can Mason County be, given the constraints of government or other entities, things we can't control, economic things? In other words, what's our end game? As a citizen, as are all of us, I'm one who is interested in our future. In that vein, I'll be doing my own analysis of potential future Mason counties, and we'll be asking the county for information, also gathering data from other sources. I believe, for example, from the voters' rolls, I can get some sense of the demographics of the county. This will be useful in projecting mortality, morbidity, and other parameters impacting our future. In-migration and out-migration is also critical. What are the characteristics of those migrating into the community? For example, I am told by a local Edward Jones agent that wealth is being introduced into the community by those in California who have sold houses, generating enough wealth to move up here, paying cash for a house, leaving enough to retire and bring their wealth with them and spend it in our community. In general, how will in-migration drive a rising demand for housing, thus driving price increases? An example of an uncontrollable parameter are interest rate changes, absolute interest rate levels, which directly impact housing affordability, foreclosure rates. It can have issues on such things as morbidity. No one can predict future interest rates. If any of us could, we'd be sitting on our private beach on our own island. The best that can be done is to define potential future economic scenarios, which ain't as simple as you might think, thus defining risk reward information to the deciders, presumably the commission, Mason County Commission, serving our community. There are many other parameters impacting our community I don't have the time to talk about here. For example, extreme climate events and things in my world are called black swan events. But I'm looking forward to many interesting discussions and sharing information. Thank you.
Thank you.
Are you looking for comments now regarding the comprehensive plan or just in general?
Anything not on the agenda?
Anyone else? Anybody online who wants to comment? Hearing none, I guess we will move on.
Question. How do we? When do we discuss or how do we discuss potentially acting on any of those comments? Or is that part of the agenda?
You know, you bring up a good question. I don't really know at this time. Staff?
Any one of the planning commission members can choose to bring forward at another planning commission if they want to address further.
Thank you.
And if we don't have a planning commission meeting on July, you have to wait till August. Okay, I got answer. I got that answered.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm kind of torn. I haven't run into this one before.
Well, and in defense, I have to recuse myself from the topic I think that needs to be discussed. Okay, in fairness, I really do.
Yeah, we can have Jeff do it.
Jeff,
He'll do it.
Jeff's good.
Yeah, I understand
Yeah,
your
no,
position and
sit next to him.
Mhm.
And the other guy said, yep.
yeah, I
Enough said.
understand it.
That's it.
Yeah. This is a good one.
Well, we'll start with the premise, log it, we have it in the minutes and we'll start to,
Well, Jeff, should we take an action? Have you or some other commissioner?
okay, and which subject were we talking about? It was raised here.
The subject raised by one of the public members regarding a comment made by a county commissioner.
I think we need to log it at this point and then do our research first.
Watch the video, okay?
Yeah. And then see what the impression is. And then at that moment,
Mhm.
as a committee, then make a
Okay.
choice.
So just log it.
So at this point, we're saying homework. People, the committee, just watch it, see what came down.
And
Okay, does any other commissioner have something to bring up or comment on?
I would be sensitive, given that this is a public meeting.
Right.
Those statements have been made and recorded, that we act in a expeditious manner,
Right.
given that ballots drop 9
Soon.
July. The
Soon.
primary is the 6th.
Oh, gee, yeah.
Sorry, guys.
Okay, well,
So let me ask the other question. Cannot this committee call a meeting? In other words, a lot of commissions, a lot of committees, there are certain rules when you can call meetings. Is this, can we only have a meeting that's called by the county, by the planning?
but just the planning commission.
Right. And it was,
Hey, Kel?
Yes.
there's a good one for you.
What do you think? Can we, us commissioners on the planning advisory commission have a
Special
just
meeting.
just us meeting?
A special meeting? I don't know from the bylaws, I'm not up to speed.
It's not really covered in the bylaws.
For the purpose of. I mean, what would the private meeting be? For?
It's not it's private, it's a special meeting,
Whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
so it'll be public.
Okay. Just to respond to the comments made in the. Is that what you're?
To figure out whether we would be required to take
Commissioner
action.
Harris, you're wishing to address the comments made earlier?
I
He's recusing himself.
really need to recuse myself from this. This is,
So what are you wanting to do tonight then? Or what are you looking to do? I'm confused on what the
So are we.
action is.
So I'll try to state it. What we would like to do, or I'm thinking, okay, I can't speak for the committee, but I'm thinking what we would potentially like to do is, as a committee, call a special meeting for the purpose of discussing what was covered, in the.
What was brought up by a member of the public?
Right. And determine what if any action we're gonna take at that point,
Or if we can take action.
or if we can take action.
Like I said, this is a good one.
Don't know what action you would take, but,
Well, the only action we can take is, advisory, we're an advisory board, so we can, pass a motion to advise. We're
The-
advising
The
the county commission,
commissioners,
right?
yeah.
And it'd be something of that nature if we feel it rises to that level. How's that? Things they don't tell. in
We
school.
could just fact check it, and then if it's true or not, if it's not true, then we can ask them to revise their statement. Whoever that commissioner was.
Well,
But maybe they're not aware of whatever the facts are.
Ask him.
May I
Somebody
say
does.
something?
the
Right,
podium.
if you scroll up to the page you were just on where it said meetings, the last sentence of the meetings
Yeah,
section says
sure.
special meetings may be called by the secretary or chairperson.
There you go.
What were you just reading there? From the shared screen that you have on with the bylaws?
This is what happens when you look
Okay,
at
special meetings, okay.
and try to.
Well,
face
does the
audience.
bylaws say that the chairperson, me, can call a special meeting?
There you go.
3 days.
I'm sorry, I'm not laughing at the situation, laughing at the grander scale, saying, wow.
So I think Terry is correct. We should do our homework.
But the only time you're gonna be able to call a meeting. Or does it allow, you can call a meeting at any time? Is that what it's saying?
yeah.
At least 3 days notice.
Okay, fine.
Well, are those meetings transcribed? You said it's like 32 minutes in. I mean, wouldn't be hard to find that statement and then verify if it's true or not. And then if it's not true, have them revise their statement.
That would be a specific question to ask of whoever made the statement. Because they would be the ones that would need to revise their statement.
Or clarify.
Yeah, that too.
Was that meeting, you said was it transcribed? Was it a virtual meeting and was it recorded?
Yeah, it's recorded on Mace
On
Web.
Mason Web TV.
Yeah, Mason Web TV.
And it was the chairperson of the county commission.
For the sake of time, can we just agree to take a look at it and then?
Yeah, let's take a look at it.
Yeah.
I think we spent enough time on this one. All right. So hearing in no further
No.
Anything? Okay,
No. Yeah,
thank you, Jeff.
you're welcome.
Now we go to the public hearing regarding Title 17, Chapter 1707, Urban Growth, Shelton Urban Growth Area Development. Specifically, the airport industrial section. Staff?
Hi, Kel Rowan, Mason County Planning Department. Several years ago, the planning department did some height. Increase the height limits in most of the chapters within our development regulations, including all of the rural areas, Belfair and Allen and Shelton. We did leave the airport industrial zone as is because there is a special, because of the FAA, there is an airport overlay zone, and we just left it as is. However, this current request for tonight is to increase the height limit in the airport industrial zone when appropriate, and this was brought forth as a request from the Shelton, the Port of Shelton, and so in compliance with the FAA rules, etc. And so this is just a request to go from 36 feet to 45 feet if appropriate. Would also have to meet all the FAA rules. And we do have Brandon Palmer of the Port of Shelton is on Zoom if you have any questions for either me or for Brandon. And staff, Mason County staff is recommending approval to the Board of County Commit, or to the PAC to recommend to the board.
All right, so anyone have any questions for Kel?
One question.
Mhm.
So is, in effect, are we saying if it choose to go to 45, does that match the rest of the county?
Yes, there's several areas that got increased to 45 and some up to 55, I think in Belfair and not Allen, but Belfair and
Okay.
other Shelton UGA zones.
And one other question, in that process of reviewing it, was there a conversation between whatever agency and like the fire departments to make sure they had capability to service that?
It's typically addressed, this question came up when we did it for countywide.
Okay, good.
And it came up, typically it's addressed through like sprinklering and other things and not necessarily by ladder trucks.
Okay, got it. Okay. That's all I have.
Question. So this is Brandon, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
So question. So my background is Air Force engineering, and so I'm familiar with, you know, the well, I'll call them imaginary surface, basically the clear zones around a runway. Does this, how close do we come to penetrating one of those clear zones from an aircraft safety perspective within FAA regulations?
We don't come close at all, really. The replacement building location is about 1,800 feet north of the center line of the runway. So it's outside of the runway protection zones, the object-free area, runway safety area, etc. There's all sorts of different zones, building restriction lines, so forth. So in terms of the imaginary surfaces, for those that don't know, essentially, you have these kind of imaginary shapes that surround the runway and the airport in general, and you're especially trying to protect the approaches to the runway. So for us, that would be runway 23, which is our primary runway, and then the other end of that same piece of asphalt, which is known as runway 5. Runway 23 is considered the primary because typically our wind is out of the southwest, meaning that's the runway that you would favor for takeoffs and landings. So yeah, from the runway, you know, our airport has a non-precision instrument approach, which is a GPS approach with vertical guidance, but it's considered non-precision instrument approach. And so we have, you know, cleared the approach to runway 23 to a 50-to-1 meaning for every 1 foot vertical you rise from the threshold, you go 50 feet horizontal, and you don't want anything to penetrate that slope, and that extends really far from the airport, and then it transitions to a 40-to-1 and so on. Probably more than you want to hear, but so this proposal is located north, and pretty much any buildings we would construct would be, outside of the runway protection type zones. So the location of this building is under what's called the horizontal surface. So, which is exactly what it sounds like. It's an imaginary surface that's horizontal and flat. And it is established at 419 feet MSL, whereas the runway 23 end, which is near where we're talking about here, is 269 feet. So to penetrate that horizontal surface, you would need to have a structure 150 feet higher than the runway surface. Now, this building that we're proposing is only 45 feet higher than the ground where it's being constructed, and Sanderson Field is virtually flat. So we're nowhere near penetrating the horizontal surface, and we're not even close to any of the other protection zones.
Thank you, Brandon.
No problem.
That answers the question. I'm comfortable.
I should also mention that, we would formally ask FAA to do an airspace evaluation prior to proceeding with construction of the building. So essentially, we would provide them the exact coordinates of the building corners, as well as the maximum height of the structure, and then they would do a formal analysis of the airspace to ensure that there's no conflict with aviation. That it doesn't create an obstruction in any way.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Thank you, Brandon.
Problem.
Anybody else have any questions? Anybody online?
It was my understanding when I was reading it, that was replacing the existing footprint of the building that burnt down. And they needed to go higher because they're putting 2 new cranes in there that needed a higher elevation. So if the existing building is if it's on the same footprint, it shouldn't be a problem.
Right. Yeah. The building that burned down 3 years ago, I don't recall the exact height of it, but it was probably 28 to 30 feet high, somewhere in there, I want to say. It was built back in the early 80s, and it was used by Certified Aerospace for quite a long time, along with all the other buildings in that area. At one time, there were about 400 people employed there doing fabrication, metal fabrication work, largely with clients such as the Department of Defense, Boeing. In fact, even Paul Allen's submarine was built at the airport there by some of those folks. But yeah, so the Port Commission would like us to try to bring back more of those types of jobs. So in order to really maximize our ability to do that, we need to have cranes that are, can pick some seriously heavy loads, and then so a big thick slab to support that, and then enough of a pick height on those cranes to enable them to, lift large objects and do that kind of work. And so the previous cranes were kind of built ad hoc, and they were antiquated and certainly weren't safe and didn't meet code. And that building is now gone, of course, and so it's now our job to replace it with something far better. And it's going to be kind of a flagship structure that should really put people to work, and with really nice high paying jobs. We're excited, and currently we've gone through the pre-application process with Mason County, and we're at about a 50% design level. And the building as designed, of course, it can only be constructed if we get this amendment passed. The only other opportunity would have been to go through the hearings examiner process through special use permit, but really we would like to have more flexibility, not just for this structure, but other potential projects in the future. And obviously, as the airport sponsor, it's our job and our passion to protect the airport and also generate revenue for it, and improve it as we go forward.
actually, just for my own edification, I guess, I looked in this, in the document advisory circular. I don't remember if it was reference 70, 74, 60. And I sent that out to these commissioners, and was I looking at the appropriate document that listed the 500 feet, or actually 499 feet? And is that where you arrived at the building would have to be 150 feet tall?
Um, you know,
Was
I
I
didn't
not
have a lot
looking
of time. Brad, I didn't have a lot of time to review what you had sent. I did see
Yeah.
it, but my information actually came from our airport master plan, which is a large planning document.
Okay,
It's sort of like a comprehensive plan for cities or counties, but it's basically the planning document that guides all of our development over the next 20 years. And as a part of that plan, we have the airport layout plan set, and that includes those FAR Part 77 imaginary surfaces, approach, depictions of the approaches and any obstructions to them, and that sort of stuff. So I got that directly off of that drawing, which
okay.
indicates the MSL elevations of all those different surfaces. But yeah, you could come to that same conclusion by going through certain FAA advisory circulars. This was
I
just
mean, it says, I just want to know if I was misreading it, and I don't want to make that mistake again. if I did make a mistake. So, but that paragraph that I sent said, it was on the, let me read it. Where was it? They lost my place on the document. It is for obstruction to lighting. But
Yeah, I think that section, I found in my email here what you're referring to. I think that was talking about if a structure is proposed to be built or altered 200 feet above ground level or higher, or near an airport.
okay,
And so that's not exactly relevant to this case because we're
yeah,
not
right.
building structure of that height, but
But it was part CFR part 77. But okay, never mind. Move on.
Thank you,
so,
Brad.
one other thing I should mention too is I tried to reach out to our airport engineering consultant, which is Century West Engineering, just before I sent that email earlier today. I wasn't able to connect with anyone until after I sent the email, but I did speak with Samantha Peterson, which is she's the planner for Century West, and I kind of reviewed with her what I had indicated in my email, and she said I was right on, and I was correct in terms of what I sent to you folks. So she agreed with me. That's good. But ultimately, the real experts on aerospace obstructions are the folks at obstruction evaluation at FAA. And so they will do the most thorough analysis on all this. By the way, every time we build a hangar or any other kind of structure anywhere near the airport, we go through this electronic 7460 form process. And, we've just recently built 4 or 5 hangars at the airport, all of which, have passed this with no problem. So we're confident this new building will do the same thing.
Well,
By the
Brandon,
way, I'm also a private pilot, and I would not want to fly anywhere near 150 feet above the ground in this vicinity. And we also have a south traffic pattern at the airport because skydiving is a really big thing at our airport. And so, normally both runways would have left traffic, which is typical. For us, runway 5 has right traffic because we do not want, aircraft flying through skydivers. So the drop zone is north of the runway. All the traffic should be south of the runway. So, and our building is north of the runway, where there should not be airplanes flying around or helicopters.
Okay,
Unless you're on base.
hearing no more questions for staff, I guess you can sit down.
Thank you.
Okay, does anybody in the public have any testimony to this? No takers, okay? Now we get to the deliberation. Anything to deliberate, commissioners?
No, no.
Okay, anybody online on the commission?
No.
Okay, hearing none. Who gets to do the motion? So you move to recommend approval?
Yeah, accept the staff's recommendation, recommend approval.
To increase the height from 36 feet to 45.
45, that's 36 to 45.
You get that?
Those are the correct numbers.
So,
Good.
Yep.
No one's good. Kel said yes. Right.
All right, so
I'll
Terry,
second.
are you gonna second it?
I second it.
Aha, see, we gotta spread it around.
That's fine.
All right, so moved and seconded. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. All right, next is the work sessions. Subcommittee formation for the 25 to 30 SIP pilot review. And we got about 20 minutes on this one. So staff?
So, a little off schedule, so I'm trying to make this quick. So this is nothing to do with the document yet. This is just to form the subcommittee and talk about this schedule for those extra meetings that are needed. So like I said in that little report that I sent you out, I did have my meeting with department staff about the matrix examples and the ability to staff that additional work. And at this time, I don't believe the departments have the staff to do that. But we did talk about some other options and look at some examples from some other nearby jurisdictions, and we looked at the city of Olympia and their current process, and they actually put together a subcommittee, like mentioned in the report. They have a 3-member subcommittee, and they take that capital improvement program and look at it a little bit more in depth. And they split that program up between the 3 people to form their questions that they have for those departments that put the projects together for the CIP. And then those questions are sent to the departments to respond to or to answer at a meeting. And so that meeting helps to clarify those questions that the subcommittee has on that. And the objective is to form a letter of recommendation that can go to the Board of County Commissioners prior to them adopting the annual capital budget. So it's before they make those decisions on the projects, and, you know, we're not getting to them afterwards. So there's a potential for your letter to have more impact on the projects that get approved for the annual budget. So, and this is just a pilot program, you know, we'd be seeing if it works, if we need to revise it next cycle. We have scheduled meetings, which I'll go over here in a few minutes. The matrix examples that we looked at before, the topics that are in those matrices, those can be used as kind of a springboard for ideas for drafting a letter. The topics are topics that you want the departments to be answering with the projects that they're presenting for financing. So we need at least 3 members, and we have 3 additional dates beyond our regular scheduled meetings. If these meetings aren't necessarily needing to be super long, the first meeting would be taking that draft CIP and dividing it up for the 3 members to look at individually and form their questions. And then the end goal, of course, is to draft that recommendation letter for the BOCC. So the calendar that I gave you, if we look at the dates here, that June 12th was that TIPCAP meeting. And I had sent an email out to the Planning Advisory Commission about joining that meeting because of course the TIPCAP, the projects on there are going to, influence, how you form letter of recommendation as well, because those are a bunch of projects that need financing as well, and it all works together with the other projects that we look at regularly every year. And then, of course, tonight's meeting is the subcommittee formation. The first meeting of the subcommittee would be July 8th. And then on July 8th, like I mentioned before, we'd be dividing out those capital facility program info for each member to review and form those questions. July 22nd, the subcommittee would provide those questions to me, and then I would get those questions to the appropriate department staff to provide responses to. And it would be a quick turnaround for the departments, but if they do not have all of those answered, then they would be present at the meeting, have a representative present at the subcommittee to answer those questions. And then the August 5th date would be that meeting to discuss those questions with the staff. And I know that we had some people may not be able to do that August 5th date. I also have staff that may not be able to do that date as well. So I wanted to discuss with whoever's interested in being on that subcommittee, what other dates may work for them. Then after that August 5th or whatever date we revise it to, there would be a PAC hearing on the capital improvement program. So that would be the chance for the public to give you guys input on that draft CIP. And then we have an August 21st subcommittee meeting. It's really quick afterwards. That would be the meeting that the subcommittee members would be forming their topics for that recommendation letter. And then providing that recommendation letter to staff by September 4th, and then getting it on PAC September meeting for the whole PAC to vote on that, to review that letter and vote on that letter. The advantages of the letter, I believe, is that it's going to be a more effective tool for communicating to the BOCC. Like I said, it will have it delivered prior to any final decisions on the annual capital budget. And then it would contain suggestions for use of funding and better document moving forward with the CIP. So better, so suggestions on how we can make the CIP better would be included in that letter of recommendation as well. And then, the PAC members, they can use those letters as a measuring tool for the future, seeing if the BOCC ever takes any of those recommendations and actually implements them. And seeing where there's continuing reoccurrence of any issues that, keep popping up CIP to CIP. So, quick little overview. Does anybody have any questions before we start talking about who might be interested in serving on the subcommittee and any other scheduled dates?
No questions there.
Terry, Brad?
No questions here.
That was easy.
So I guess the next thing would be to have a show of who's actually interested in being on the subcommittee, and
Since I gave a lot of comments. I'm game.
Well, your hand's still up, but did you notice the other three of us had our hands up too?
Yes. I do
Okay.
not.
All right, well, Terry, are you interested?
I do not have the bandwidth for another committee.
Okay, how about you, Brad?
Yeah, not really. Well,
You don't
how many
have
people do we have now? Do we have three
We have
member? How many members do we have?
4.
Yeah, I'll back out. I'll let you go, you four handle it then.
Thank you, Brad. All right, so looks like the 4 of us have volunteered to
We only need 3, and if we have 4, we have a quorum.
oh, well,
Reality check. Back to where we started this discussion an hour ago.
you're right.
I'll wait to ask about.
Actually, no, I'll step back. I'm the chair. I'm gonna let you guys do all the work.
Okay.
So it has to be 3 or could it be 4?
Probably should be probably 3.
4 is a quorum, that's
Yeah.
the problem.
Okay.
Okay, so we would. As a minimum, it creates a perception that we're making decisions as a PAC if there's 4. More than likely, it's 4 and it is a quorum, and therefore it is happening, and therefore other rules apply. We probably don't want to go there for a lot of reasons.
Okay.
So,
So
3 and an alternate?
I don't want you to be in, on it, but I will, if,
Yeah.
well, Terry brought up a good point. How about an alternate?
yeah, that'd be fine.
The only thing is, I think that because of how this is squeezed together timing wise, it's gonna be,
Yeah.
Not
yeah, only a few
it's
meetings.
gonna be tough. It's almost like you have to be there. It's kind of like a jury.
Unless you don't have a full-time job.
Yeah. And the only question I have is if I get nominated is the August, I believe it's the August 5th meeting. I have the grandkids.
Yeah, and if I was in there, that 5th, that August 5th.
The 2 days,
The 12th work for you?
2 days later is fine. I mean, like, even like the 8th or 9th is even fine,
just not the 6th.
right? Or the 5th.
Okay, so
So tip caps on the second Wednesday, isn't it?
Uh,
I think
let me
it's the
look.
second Wednesday, so I don't think that one's.
Haven't filled up August yet. Tip cap is.
I lost track.
Yeah, I think Marissa is correct. No surprise.
So Thursday then, I mean,
Nine.
yeah,
So the other thing was, are you okay with doing it on Zoom?
I'm game either way.
Yeah, I mean, personally, I prefer to drive and look at a human being, but I mean, that's my preference.
I'm just saying because we have a tighter schedule with this.
Yeah.
I mean.
But we could
for
still,
this one.
we could still be here or not.
I don't.
Well, let me ask you a different.
got a nice
question.
conference room there at the Public Works.
The subcommittee, if we opt to get together on our own, just to try and compare some notes and, okay, are we so we're gonna break this up.
Right,
I'm sort of guessing, whatever this looks like, someone takes, I don't know, maybe we do it by type of work, maybe we do it by dollar value, and maybe it's facility versus parks, and then it's, okay, so how are you thinking of developing your question line versus mine? And those question lines may be similar, so it can all get piled together. I'm just thinking,
my own wiring is that if we're talking utilities, it's like water.
Yeah. But there's similar questions from my perspective. I guess what I'm saying is, it wouldn't, frankly, Mike, come over to the house, let's sit down. if that's legal to do and fine, it's just a working group. But, I
I'm
mean,
fine if that's fine. I don't have any problem with that.
And we could also use our PAC conference room too. I'm just like, I'm not sure that this room will be available.
Sure.
that day.
yeah,
So we could use our PAC conference room in our offices too. It's a
That's
little
that.
bit more intimate. but we're
just
smaller.
any place with a desk, that's all I need.
A whiteboard?
Yeah, yeah, whiteboard's always better.
In your conference room, you have a whiteboard?
Yes, we do.
Okay.
Okay, then we're good.
That's
It's a
even
big
better.
whiteboard.
It's a small room, so
Yeah, I've been in a small room, but can you have how large is the whiteboard? Because,
it's
Is
But
maybe
that's,
a time it's
Okay.
TV size.
that where you have your staff meetings? No,
Yes.
okay. It's
Small.
the size, there's this table and the walls are, like
Yeah,
the bench.
that's
there.
fine. We shouldn't be at each other's throats. If we are, we got another problem.
Yeah, we're not being very effective for the community then, so we can work through that
Okay, so the 9th works for the three of you,
Right.
at this point.
and is the same time as 6 p.m. or do you want something a little bit earlier or?
how about a little earlier? That way you guys can go home on time.
I'm more exactly opposite. The later the better, but that's fine, whatever.
Actually, let me see I'm not on the subcommittee, right?
Yeah,
I want to make sure of that.
yeah, you're not.
Your decision, you guys can make.
I'm game at this time.
6 o'clock.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's fine with me.
Yeah. You can 6 a.m., 6 p.m., 9 at
Well, I don't
night.
know about
Big
6
one.
a.m. I'm stuck drinking coffee.
Well, yeah, well,
Doing yoga and working on the elliptical and all that, so.
Okay, let me make sure everything. Okay, last thing, we do need to take action. I do want to have you take action on it, so I have it in the record that,
So one of you guys needs to make a motion.
and the motion's even up there if you want to use it.
and I'll make a motion. And Jeff, would you like to be the chair of the subcommittee?
What a sucker punch.
No, I don't want to be the
Okay.
chair.
I
That's fine.
motion the subcommittee consists of Jeff, Mike, and Will. That Jeff is the chair of the subcommittee,
Right,
that we meet on the dates as prescribed in the pilot process for the SIP review. With one modification, that is the meeting on August 5th be rescheduled to August 9th.
Pretty long.
Tentatively at 6 p.m., but we'll deal with that. We'll adjust accordingly based on schedules, and that the
I'll second
subcommittee
it.
has the authority to make that.
I gotta stop.
Okay,
Second of
all right.
All right. Everybody get all that? Good. It's
She's
been-
smiling, so we're happy.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. All those in favor, please say aye.
All right.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
Okay.
All right. Now for the comprehensive plan.
Oh, boy.
So Kelda, or
Person.
Good evening. Can you guys hear me?
We can.
Yeah.
Wonderful. I apologize, but my video won't work. I was on a Zoom meeting earlier and it was working then and not now, but I am happy to join you guys tonight. My name's Kirsten. I haven't been with you before, but I am going to be joining Christina Hayworth as a project manager on this. And I do have a slideshow I want to share with you. So I'm going to pull that up, but also I was listening at the beginning. I understand you guys have some concerns about where we're at. So I'm going to talk a little bit about where we are in the project. So can you guys see my screen where it says comprehensive plan update?
Yes.
Perfect. Okay. So I've got some slides, but anytime you have questions, feel free to stop me. But I do want to keep you on task. I'm going to be cognizant of your time. And also in the future, if you want me to attend any meetings in person, I'm happy to do so. But you guys had asked about the timeline of this. And so we'll get to that in a minute. But first, what I wanted to talk about tonight was progress on the countywide planning policies, the preliminary housing allocations, and then the community engagement that's occurred to date and what we have planned for the future. But I believe some of you were looking at this plan earlier. So this outlines, you know, the Gantt chart that was referenced, and, you know, we are here. So this is 2024 with January to June. And so to date, we have started the public engagement. We've done some interviews, done a few engagement activities. And there's been a lot of work that's been done by the FCS group, who is a sub-consultant for us. And they've been pulling together all of the numbers for housing allocation. And that's a really important topic that I'll show you a little bit more information later. But we've had some meetings with the city of Shelton, and based on the discussion, there were requests to go back and make a few revisions that I'll talk about in a bit. So that put us back a little bit, but really we're pretty close to being on track with what we had hoped to do. So the demographics report, I received a final copy today, actually, within the last few hours from FCS Group. And in terms of a future meeting, this is an important topic that you probably, we could have FCS kind of lead the discussion on that one and really dive into how they did their research and how they came up with various allocations. They actually have 3 different scenarios that could be discussed. I'm going to share just one of them today, just to kind of give you a heads up at where we're at. You know, the community visioning is based partly on the survey, which will be discussed as well. And how do we go about getting more feedback and more folks from the community to participate? So once again, we're to this dashed orange line, and we're pretty much on track there. But I understand the desire to make sure we stay on track. I'm not going to speak for staff, but if there was a way to work a meeting in that was just really the FCS group and SCJ there to talk about the housing allocations to help understand, we don't want to put too much on Marissa's plate. I've been in her shoes before as the staff planner that's providing all the packets, and it's a lot of work to put them together. So if it was a matter of, you know, sharing a PowerPoint in advance, you know, we're happy to provide that, but I'll let you guys work with your staff on what works for you. But I just wanted you to know we're available. Okay, so getting back to the CPPs, countywide planning policies, where we are at today. So in May, we provided the staff with our proposed updates to the countywide planning policies, and we've set a meeting for June 27th for all the departments to review it. The meeting invite was sent out a couple weeks ago, and we wanted everybody to have an opportunity to read the potential revisions and come back to the meeting prepared to further discuss it. And then this interagency review in July, that's set for July 11th. They have already received the draft copy, but once the departments, all the county departments get together, and if they've got any more revisions, we will send the updated version to the other agencies. And that includes the city of Shelton, school districts, as you can see on the slide, fire districts, tribes, and others. We want to bring everybody together because it's important for everyone, everyone in all the agencies in the jurisdiction to be part of and collaborative in putting together the final version. And so, you know, an ideal date for adoption would be in August, but it does make everybody's efforts to read and participate as scheduled very important, so that we can get that adopted. So you may have seen this before or heard this before, but a reminder, the countywide planning policies, the purpose is outlined in the RCW, and the purpose is to establish a framework for developing the various comprehensive plans. And the role of the policies is to coordinate the comprehensive plans of the jurisdictions in the same county for regional issues that affect common borders. So in a lot of the counties where they have several more jurisdictions, they come up with different creative ways of, you know, for instance, processing applications in the urban growth areas. And so it's very important to collaborate on those. Moving on to the next slide. So there are some updates to the existing countywide planning policies that are required to meet the state requirements. House Bill 1220 talks about housing planning. The policies need to address affordability, equity, and anti-displacement. So as new development comes along, you're not displacing anyone out of their homes. And then House Bill 1181 requires the countywide planning policies to address climate resilience, and that can include issues just related to the hazard mitigation plan. And I do have another slide, or well, several on what we want to do with that and some discussion items. And the CPP should also be updated to meet just the local goals. So as we work together on the comprehensive plan and we start doing community visioning with the community members, we want to make sure the CPPs align with the agreed upon vision and the priorities of the community for how they want to grow in the future. We want to make sure that each of the departments and agencies, that their needs are met, and if there's anything that's outdated, we just simply remove it. And that we just make sure we're offering the appropriate opportunities to collaborate effectively between agencies. So even though we're working on all these drafts, it's possible that as we continue down the process, we may discover that we need to revise them in the future. So I wanted to just give you a heads up on that as well. Some other key changes in the recommendations that were made, that were shared with staff and that will be reviewed by everyone, is the idea of exploring Union as a new urban growth area. That may or may not work, but when FCS group was doing some of their work and just based on some of the other growth that's happening, that's just an option that is being looked into. And then consider co-management of the Shelton urban growth area, considering co-management with that agency or that jurisdiction. Also want to update the multimodal transportation access requirements and networking. And then as required by the state, we would recommend strengthening the affordable housing policies and incorporate the anti-displacement policies that they would like us to, but we want to make them reflective of Mason County and what we're hearing from the public and what the needs are from the folks that live and work there and the PAC. You're there to represent the community and advise. We need to strengthen the resource industry policies, also based on what's recommended by the state. And then also required to integrate climate resilience and hazard mitigation information. So on the next slide, there's just some opportunities to talk about some discussion. And this is where I'd welcome feedback, and Marissa, please feel free to weigh in. But as I mentioned before, House Bill 1220 requires that we consider equity in the countywide planning policies, that we address historic disparities. So part of the discussion is just how should Mason County, it's right there on your screen, prioritize equity in land use and transportation policies and prioritize equity in capital facilities and parks and open space investments. Now, there's time for discussion, but also I want to let you know that maybe this is really more of an exercise to get you thinking about it in a more to be prepared for a more in-depth discussion at the next meeting, perhaps. So, at this point, I'll just ask if there's anything you want to throw out there. And I don't expect you to have full answers right now, like I said, because this is kind of let you know what we're thinking about and what we want to hear about and get future direction on moving forward. But, just based on a quick read and your thoughts right now, any feedback?
It's Jeff Carey, one of the PAC commissioners. I have a concern in formulating this plan and updating this plan. I have a concern that the demographics haven't been accurately reflected, one in past plans, but also currently what's being, at least in the first document being presented, in a number of areas, both in housing, both employment, both in population, and both in schools for openers. And as an example, in schools, the census shows in big round numbers 11,200 in this county. But the schools in their census for full-time students comes up to about 8,200. So there's about 35% difference between what census says and what the schools say. And, schools are, part of the comp plan in an indirect way, but as it's an example of what I'm concerned about is, it seems like there's a lot of factors in this demographics that aren't reconciled for this county. And to be able to form a plan, it seems like you have to have a common denominator, i.e. the demographics. And be accurate, reasonably close. I don't mean to Nat's eyebrow, but, plus or minus a few percentage points, no problem, maybe up to 5. But there's just,
Valid concerns. So let me ask you this. I would feel a lot more comfortable if we had FCS group and maybe some of the other staff members that have been more involved come back to the next meeting and address those. But I'm taking notes and I'll come back to those. But are your numbers coming from the housing action plan that was prepared?
they're coming from census, action plan, the school districts.
Yeah, and I hear you saying that you're getting different numbers from the census versus the school district versus
Yes,
and the housing action plan.
yes, numbers are coming from there. There's and there's another point that I've raised some time ago, which is through this process, we have to have kind of a common denominator in dates, because we got things that are 2021, 2022, 2023. And I don't have a problem dynamically handling it that way, but there has to be a factor if you're gonna have all those different dates as your baselines for the different numbers you're tallying up. I mean, I saw it when the housing needs assessment, we're all over the place as far as dates. They may be legit, but at least at this point, I can't tell.
Yeah, that's always a challenge when the reports that are produced by different groups don't always come out at the same time. But I know that the FCS group, that they've been trying really hard to provide different options. And so what they sent over today was there was 2 scenarios offered up in the housing action plan for future growth. And then they had a third option that they're recommending. And so what we want to do at a future meeting is share all those scenarios with you to help you kind of work through where those, discrepancies are and select the most appropriate allocation method. Now, like you said, the schools are only part of the comp plan in an indirect way. And so those numbers don't necessarily show up in the comprehensive plan itself. But when you're talking about housing, there's a good reason they would want to include information about that in a housing action plan. But I think that for our purposes today and then with the next meeting, we really want to focus more on the numbers that affect how you're going to grow, how many folks we have to project for coming into the community, into Mason County over the next 20 years, and then deciding between the jurisdictions where the growth should go. And I have some slides to share with you on that in the future. So at this point, I kind of wanted to talk about how we would address the countywide planning policies there, but it's all interrelated. So,
Kristen?
Go on.
Yeah, this is Jeff Carey again.
Mm-hmm.
In the area of employment, population, and housing, we need to get some kind of reconciling, because they do not reconcile with the dam. I'll just say it bluntly and straight that way. When I look at it and try to tally up different ways and look at different reports, you get some weird numbers. And there's some characteristics also of Mason County that are unique. And I've raised this issue before, that, for example, Mason County in the working age group, which I can't remember if it's the 16 to 64 or 21 to 64, but in the working age group, this county has a disability rate of 13.4 or something percent by the census, which is way higher than the state average, way higher than the US average, way higher than any other county in Washington state. And so it seems like to me that's never been brought up, and it needs to be a factor in our comp plan dealing with, services, in this community.
Okay, absolutely. I appreciate you sharing that with me.
You're welcome.
Let me get back to my.
Jeff, are you talking about the community profile? The information that was presented in the community profile?
Yes, but that factor I just raised wasn't even in the community profile.
Okay. But a couple of things you raised did reminded me of the questions you asked about.
Yeah.
So when SCJ responded to your questions and I sent that to you, were you not satisfied with the answers?
Correct.
Okay, so Kirsten, I will refer you to the document he's talking about.
Okay.
So it's something that SCJ answered prior, but we can look over. Again,
Okay, and for all you folks, just know that even though I'm jumping into this now, I'll be in this for the long haul through the rest of the project. It was in the works to get me on the team for a while, but I wasn't able to join as soon as they'd hoped. So I want to get up to speed. And I think it would be very helpful for us to have a meeting that involved the FCS group who's doing the demographic work for the comp plan. And you know what I think I might do with this slide deck? There's a few discussion points in here. I think I'll just share them, but continue on. I want to show you everything in the slide deck, and then you can let me know what topics you want to provide further feedback on today. I'll get through the 3 main topics that we had. And I don't want to eat up too much of your time, but I also understand how important this is. So I'll let you guys drive how much time we take here, but I'll just kind of get through the slides and show you what else we had. We did also want to just talk about climate, more about the climate planning policies and what the county's role should be in that area. The housing allocations is what you continue to bring up here. And so yeah, I'm assuming, I hope that you've seen these numbers before, but the forecast is showing that we would have another 14,801 permanent residents added between 2024 and 2045. And then this is a slide that was received.
Slide, please.
This slide?
Yes.
This is a new one we received today. They're trying to make revisions based on previous feedback. And I didn't want to present their entire slide deck, so I pulled just a couple of them because they've done the work. They can speak to all the questions that were posed to them, some of the differences they made. And so I would love to give an opportunity to have this be like the main topic of a future meeting.
Look at it, scale's wrong.
Scale is,
Scale's fine, yeah. So
is a logarithmic.
two questions. The scale, the horizontal scale. You go from 2020 to 23 to 24 to 25 to 30, 35, 40, and they're all equal distances. So the slope of the line is not representative of what's really going on. So I would recommend a consistent scale on the bottom.
You brought this up last time.
And then the other question, and this can be held for a later date, but how do we get to basically 83,000 people here in 20 years? Specifically, how are potentially 2 dry docks in Bremerton factored into this? How is the change of Bremerton National Airport into an international airport focused on cargo factored into this? And do we have an estimated layout as to where this growth of whatever 15,000 are going? Are they primarily expected to be in North Mason, South Mason, or West?
Well, getting back to this next slide, I'm not going to speak to that exactly, except that you can sit here and look at the allocation between, oh, I'm sorry, this is historic. I'm one slide. Let me get to the next slide. Here we go. So the way it's being allocated is 41% of the units would be in the Shelton City in the urban growth area, 33% in the Allen and Belfair UGAs, and then 26% in the county, rural county. And that's in keeping with what the requirements are for, keeping the bulk of the growth in the urbanized areas. And this is just the allocation that FCS Group put together as a comparison to the other 2 models offered up in your housing action plan. So we just kind of wanted to give you a snapshot today, but as I said before, would love to have a more in-depth conversation. And I think it would be appropriate to try to even arrange that time. Maybe even before the end of the meeting, determine a date that's good for everybody.
Look, Kristen, looking at it, and I see the housing needs assessment issue. Does this 23-25 take in consideration, well, let me put it a different way. The 2023-2045 framework for Belfair doesn't match their current plan currently.
Well, that's what this would all be about, is updating all of the plans. Shelton originally had more multifamily assigned to them, and they pushed back and said, we can't accommodate all that. So that's where you get together with all the affected jurisdictions, but they are just UGAs at this point. So that's where there's room for discussion on this. And I don't know if Marissa, if you want to add anything in here.
So I guess at a future meeting, I'd like to know, so the growth numbers there in total housing method C, call it, 7,700, where are they coming from? Are they coming from, Kitsap County? Are they coming from Thurston County? I'm assuming they're likely maybe not coming from Grace Harbor, but where are they coming from? And so if we say they're primarily coming from Thurston County, then that drives one traffic pattern. If we say they're primarily coming from Kitsap and we're putting most in Shelton, then that drives a very different traffic program and traffic pattern going down Highway 3.
You're absolutely right. I'm not certain if they're able to predict that specifically, but I have taken notes on that and I'll ask them to speak to that.
Yeah, we'll want to just look at that from, as we get into the transportation element. Thank you.
Absolutely. Give notes. Okay, so I'm going to move on to a completely different topic. We can come back to that if you want, but community engagement. And that's key, and it's something that needs to occur throughout the process. It should be continuous and always seeking to find new ways to involve more people that don't normally participate. But I believe somebody already spoke from the public regarding a survey that they saw online. It was opened on June 4th. Only 107 responses have been received to date. It's been primarily online. Just today, we received a request to provide the version to run paper copies. So we'll be getting that to Marissa tomorrow for folks. And we do have feedback on who is responding so far. So right now, this is who you're hearing from. Primarily folks that have lived there a longer time, so more than 20 years, typically older residents, typically retired, and they're often higher income or they chose not to answer that question. So one of the discussion points was how could we get more folks to participate? What ideas do you have being from the community on how to do outreach? I know a lot of the communities approach it a little bit differently. Some places the newspaper works, some places that's dying. Some places, putting things on the city website works, or maybe radio stations that are still out there. Word of mouth is often the biggest tool, honestly, for getting stuff out there. I'm not sure if you guys have a social media account, but, just trying to explore a lot of different avenues. And so that's something that we welcome feedback on as well, as how can we get more folks to participate. And so keep thinking about that, but just some of the preliminary responses being received so far. We asked, what makes Mason County great and what does Mason County need? So, a lot of people agree that they love the rural atmosphere and the natural beauty and the resources. They like it. It's a small community with strong social connections and currently a low population with good access to services in larger cities. And you see that a lot in the rural communities, and that's what people love about it. So that is why it's so important to plan effectively and proactively for if you're going to have future growth, you want to be prepared for it. So it doesn't turn into some sprawl or just a nature that is not what the community was envisioning. So that's why we need to know the vision. So some suggestions from the current survey respondents about needs. more, whoops. Sorry about that. More amenities, services, retail and job opportunities, environmental protection, conservation and tourism, reduction in crime, more choices for affordable housing and some improved infrastructure. And that some of the general planning priorities that the respondents said were to maintain the safe community that they all appreciate, preserve and reinforce Mason County's Northwest woodland character, provide more parks and recreation opportunities, keep the community engaged in local issues. And then on the next slide, preliminary responses regarding housing priorities. Folks wanted to see affordability. I think that's always top of mind. And that doesn't mean it's low income. That just means, can you afford it? Range of choices. So you've got options, mixed use options in the urban areas. So where you might have, you know, retail on the bottom, some housing on the second floor kind of thing. Single family homes, and the missing middle, which is one of the requirements of the state legislature as well, is that development regulations after adoption of the comprehensive plan will need to include offerings for more housing types, medium density stuff beyond single family, like duplexes and fourplexes and condos and townhomes and stacked flats. You get a range of options that the state offers, and then the community can talk through what those are. And then additional responses regarding climate are apparently the folks that responded, they're typically very concerned about climate issues. And they felt that Mason County needs to take more action on being prepared for climate issues. And the critical risks that they saw were extreme weather events, drought and water scarcity, heat waves and urban heat island effect, and sea level rise. So that's where when the state wants us to put in more policies directed to climate change, it's really focusing, you know, we can look at these risks, the weather events, and what's right there on your screen. So those are the topics to be thinking about. And it sounds like the folks that have responded so far are bringing those up. So that's the end of what we had to share on the survey itself. So if you have any feedback on what you've heard or how you would recommend to staff and SCJ about how to further spread the word, please share that. Love to hear your feedback.
I'll speak up. So I've done a lot of thinking on this topic, and I struggle with some of the challenges, and it's really our makeup a little bit. And let me just talk to that for a minute. So we talk about equity and equality, but when you look at our county, it's very frankly different than the state or different than the nation. You know, for example, this is pulling off the US Census. Our average resident's just under 45 years old, where the average state resident is 38 years old. So we're 7 years older than the rest of the state on average. And frankly, our biggest population section is 55 to 75 years old, male, female across the board. We are not aligned to the state or the nation with regards to race and ethnicity. In some areas, we are higher percentages. In some areas, we're lower percentages as compared to the rest of the state, and particularly the United States. Same with education. We are relatively, we have fewer folks with college degrees than the rest of the state at a fairly, I think, a fairly significant number, and same with income. And I consider all of that and how we blend that in, and what is the objective, you know, with regards to equity and equality from all those different perspectives. From a gender perspective, it's relatively equal. Then the other big topic is housing, and so, you know, we heard the other night, we have a couple of commissioner races running on, and we heard from the public speaking up about, in addition to the 4 or 5 different methods that were up on the slide, but tiny housing, using sea land containers as housing. And yeah, no, there's some very, these just ideas that were out there, and very quickly there were a lot of discussions because some folks were throwing numbers out there. But, I think a number that is based on current fact is that, an average house in this county right now is about 1,400 square feet and about $410,000. So if you assume, if you will, affordability is roughly 30% of your income to a house, that means your household needs to be just shy of 120,000 a year to be able to buy a house in this county today. And that's a real issue. But then again, if we start to say, well, hey, we can go to tiny homes, or we can use sealand containers potentially, okay, then does that start to have a disparity of types of housing? We talk tiny homes being a few hundred square feet as opposed to 1,400 square feet versus many others that we have out there. And I'm just wondering, how are you looking at this, and how are you bringing all this together? Because ultimately we all live in a community, and how do we help, I guess, sort of work away from have and have nots and the degree of reasonableness? Because if I'm on a 300 square foot home, and Jeff, to pick on you across the table, you're on a 2,000 square foot home, I may have some opinions about that. I may not like my 300 square feet. So I'm just wondering, how are you looking at even broader housing options? And I'm going to throw one more in. How are we handling all the mandates from Olympia? There's a number regarding climate resiliency, greenhouse gases, et cetera, and important topics, but it's driving the price of housing up. So how do we balance these challenges? So how can you talk to that?
That's the big question. And who was speaking? So
I'm looking for a good answer too.
You need to tell her.
So I just came out of working on some of the same issues over on the east side of the state. They have the same exact issues and the same concerns that things happening in the big urban areas are leading what's happening elsewhere. I agree that there's a huge discrepancy between the goals of the state to provide affordable housing while at the same time increasing the energy code requirements that keep increasing the cost of actually constructing the home. So that's where the communities all need to work within their own jurisdiction to determine how to best address this issue. So the state, they're offering these broad planning goals, and they're mandating, saying, okay, you need to go ahead and offer more housing options. And I will say that that is actually something that a lot of the communities push back on, because they're very comfortable with the rural kind of feel. You're in the city, the UGA, and maybe you've actually got some fairly large lots, maybe 12,000 square feet to even an acre sometimes in the city, in the more rural areas. And then you've got the state trying to push these little teeny tiny lots. So what they're trying to do is streamline permitting to get you to reduce the regulations to allow for more housing types. And all they want you to do as a jurisdiction is to update your regulations, your development code, to have more offerings available. They want you to start allowing in your single family zones that you can have fourplexes, and that you can have smaller lot sizes, and that there will be more offerings. Now, the challenge is the cities and the counties, they don't build the housing. They just have to have a process available for the developers to do it. And what I've seen so far over my 18 years I've been in city government for 18 years, is the developers have a price in mind. They know exactly how much profit they're going to make when they do single family lots. And so it's a little bit uncomfortable for them to go outside their range. It's like, that's why they call it missing middle. You either have single family homes or you've got apartment complexes, and there's a different group of folks that run apartments. So they want to see more creativity, but we need the builders on board to build that. So really, it's kind of your community and what you're going to project to the development community. Like, hey, this is what we want here. We are going to allow smaller lots and we got to get comfortable with that because it's not the same. It's change in your community. But that's also where we got to continue on with this public feedback. We need to find out more from the community members, what they're comfortable with. And as we help you do some outreach, we can also come with, you know, scenario examples. We can have visualizations. We've actually put together tiny little model housing types that you can lay on top of maps to just kind of help people see the scale of housing. And so, you know, we will come as a contractor consultant to help you have those conversations with the community, show the options that are available. You as an advisory group can make your recommendations to the elected officials that will ultimately adopt them. But really what you want is to make sure your final policies are reflective of what the community wants. And the conversations are probably not going to be easy ones. And I haven't given you a good answer. I'm just telling you this is a really difficult conversation that every community is grappling with. And you're on a side of the state that has a deadline sooner than others. So where I was at prior to this, I was working in the middle of the state, and they're having the same exact conversations where they don't want to change. So what else can I share with you that doesn't necessarily answer your questions? What other questions do you have?
I don't.
Okay, so can we have some testimony from the public?
I just want to respond
Uh,
to what
uh,
you just said.
Come to the podium.
Oh, yeah, right, sorry. Well, I have something prepared, but as far as when she's asking how to get input from the public, you've got such a small response, you really do need to have the physical survey and get it out to everyone. If advertisers can get something in everybody's mailbox easily, why, do you have a budget? That's my question. Do you have a budget for getting input? Because you're right, you need more input, way more, from lots of different people. That's all I wanted to say.
Okay, thank you.
I have a comment. So,
Okay, Terry.
I'm in the older person demographic, unfortunately. But a lot of the people use like Belfair community pages on Facebook. There's a lot of community pages that people talk about resources and restaurants and problems in the community. And I know I look at it all the time. So I think that'd be a good place to put out a survey. And then also, I know I'm reading some of the new legislation coming out that Washington State's really embracing ADUs. And they just rolled out some new legislation about co-living, which is as a real estate investor, I'm investing in. So I think there's some other options besides containers and tiny houses. That's it.
Thank you, Terry. What do you think? Facebook?
We did put it on Facebook, on our Mason County page on Facebook. I also put it on several community pages on Facebook as well.
Next door.
Next door, I put it on next door. I posted it physically at all the post offices in the county and the libraries. And we had our news release, so that went out to the papers and the radio stations. And both the chambers pushed it to their member list. So.
One other group, I don't know where it is today, but when I was the president of the Allen Community Association years ago, you know, fundraising type issues and working with other volunteers and what have you. In this county, there's like there was about 225 nonprofits. And what we noticed is a lot of the nonprofits, those seem to be the people that belong to these different organizations seem to be more actively involved, you know, true to their nonprofit, but they're more involved in the community than a lot of people. And so that was one way we were mailing, you know, and working with various nonprofits to get, support on this or that at the time. And so there's a list, an organization, I can't remember the organization, but there's a way to get the list and be able to at least mail to the different, presidents or boards of those organizations and at least engage them enough to say, whether they respond or not, that's another thing, but at least we, as an organization, we're finding that those were more civic oriented people were a lot more proportionally involved.
Well, it could be too that people think it's spam or some gimmick
Sure.
and they don't want to touch it.
Right. Yep.
Well, it sounds like the staff has done everything they can possibly do, short of psychically willing people.
No, go ahead.
Hello, I'm Julianne Gale. I'm the co-founder of Mason County Climate Justice, and I appreciate everybody's hard work on these things and the good questions that you're asking. The first thing I want to say is I really appreciate the offer for SCJ Alliance to come in person. And I'd like to request that you please do come in person because especially I feel like in communities like ours, so much happens in relationship. When we can see each other's faces, we can be in the same room together. And I think a lot can happen with that kind of collaboration. So I really hope you all will come in the future.
Absolutely.
Awesome, that's great. And then on the issue of equity and public participation, it would be so great if all of these documents were available to the public ahead of time. We have the website where the Planning Commission documents are available, or I got an email inviting me to this Planning Commission because I asked to be on the list, but none of the SCJ documents are on those emails. They're not. Even stuff that's been presented in the past hasn't made it onto the website, and it would be so great to make that accessible to everybody. And I think that if we're talking about how do we do affordable housing, then the people we need to be talking to about the solutions are the people who need affordable housing. And so to involve our low-income communities, I don't think an online or a paper survey with a lot of words is going to be the best way to engage our low-income communities, even though they're really good questions and a lot of low-income folks have a lot of really important things to say. Making information available so people have background information to make good decisions, and then doing things in person in community, I think is the best way to engage the public. And so the end result can still be a survey maybe, but I think there's a lot more information that's going to happen from community roundtables and discussions and going to where people already are. So if we go to places where people, so for example, as Mason County Climate Justice, we'll find out soon, but we applied for a community participation grant to be able to help engage communities in the comprehensive plan. And as part of our planning to apply for that grant, we talked to a lot of different folks, some of whom were like, their families and their communities are folks who are houseless or at risk of houselessness or who have challenges with substance use or their family members do. And they're really excited about engaging their own communities. But these are folks who don't have a lot of extra time or may not have ever heard of the comprehensive plan before. So there needs to be some amount of time for us to connect with communities and engage with them. And hopefully we get the grant and the money to pay them for their expertise to get that kind of participation. It helps when you have where the community already gathers. That could be HOAs, it could be the farmers market, it could be communities of faith, it could be all kinds of where people go to food banks, where people go to get meals, where they go to get fed, tribal community events, all any kind of community gathering where someone shares about why this is important and then everyone fills it out at that moment all together. I think you'll get a lot more input that way.
Julianne, I couldn't agree more. When will you hear about that grant?
Theoretically, Department of Commerce said Friday, the 21st, but I don't know. But either way, our people want to be involved. So I would love to meet with you all, to get more on the same page. And the questions about like, what does equity look like in land and in transportation and in capital facilities and parks and open space? These are big questions. And because this plan is going to affect us for the next 10 years, I do not want us to rush the demographics question. I do not want us to rush the equity questions, the climate resilience questions. I think it's really important for us to go slow and go together than to rush. And so the countywide planning policies, it's so good that you're doing the departmental stuff, the interdepartmental stuff, but really the community needs to be at the table, not at the end of the process when everybody's already agreed from, you know, the people in positions of power who work for the county or the city, but at the beginning, because it's kind of a lot to ask departments to look at everything, approve it, then the community gives input and then you have to change everything again. It would be better to all be on the same page in the first place. And I'm someone with a disability who lives in Mason County. I have long COVID, which means I process things slower. So having these kinds of documents ahead of time to think about them, and also time to take it to my community and the people I know and the people that they know and get feedback and then come back all together would be so great. So I hear you that this stuff is just an opener so that we can have deeper conversations later. But I'm really looking forward to deeper conversations, the stuff in writing available in an easy to access format, and ways of thinking about who are the community navigators, who are the folks that people in various communities trust in the same way that you do public health work with trusted folks in the community so that real information is shared and people feel comfortable to really say, especially if we're talking about equity, like, you know, what BIPOC folk is going to come here and say, I feel really comfortable telling this group of people where I'm uncomfortable about racism and what I think planning can do to fix that. You know, there's got to be enough safety and enough trust to be able to have these real conversations about equity so that we can have a community that's good for all of us. And we do have a lot of elders and we do have a lot of retired folks, but there are youth here who are going to live here the rest of their lives. And many of them, I've talked to some high school students here who are so interested now that they know what the comprehensive plan is and want to be involved and want to have their say and want to share in the vision of this community that they grew up in and plan to be in the rest of their lives. And so we got to have everybody at the table, and that might take a little collaboration, a little slowing down, and a little getting on the same page so that we can really fly later on. And we have the extra, 6 months now we have till December 2025.
Yes, we do.
So we have a little more time, and I'd love us to take advantage of it and worry less about like, did we meet this deadline from the original plan, and more, what's the quality of the information that we're making decisions based on. Thank you.
Thank you.
And I'm here to help.
In response to that, I will work with Marissa to just talk about where we might be able to move some of our timing around, you know, just related to the budget, and want to be sensitive to that. But everything she just shared is stuff I love to work on. I love long range planning, getting out to the people where they are. I joined this project, you know, just a month ago. I started working for SEJ and the plan was already in place, but I completely agree with what she proposed. I just want to find a way to work within the constraints of a budget, but then be creative, because there's a lot of ways that you know, I or Marissa can kind of coach what's happening and then allow some really cool grassroots efforts to take place. And especially if Julianne were able to get her grant, then it could really explode and be really cool. So I would love to get together with you, Julianne and Marissa, and talk more about this.
Hi, Julianne. I didn't recognize you with your mask. Julianne and I were side mates on Norma Cage's property when we ran for offices a couple of years ago. Of course, we both lost. So, Yeah, I was very encouraged. That was a survey I had referenced. I was very encouraged and I agree 100%. There should be more, in my opinion. The main driver of this whole process should be the desire and information from the community. All information is good. As far as the demographics go, in my world, this 3 scenarios seems a little light. In my world, you do a lot of scenarios for demographics and other moving parts. And I think Will is correct and you're correct. I suspect there's a lot of moving parts in their projections that aren't there. So when I get a chance to talk to the people actually generating the numbers, that'll be very, very interesting to me. Inside the plan, there may be a requirement, you know, this is the demographic, these are the demographics that you have to report. But best practice is for actual planning, not just report, what all is possible. What are we going to do for all these scenarios, not just demographics. Also on, Kristen and Christina. Could you tell Ryan Shea that Randy Lewis said hi?
Tell this to who?
Ryan Shea, you know Ryan?
Oh, yeah. He's actually in the office right next to me. I'll pass it on. Randy Lewis?
Yeah, I'm running a math tutoring program at the high school, and four
Right.
of my tutors were from FCJ, including Ryan. And
Nice.
you know, he's on the hook for the roundabout starting Shelton, but is waiting for money or something. But it's been interesting talking to him about his time motion studies and all that kind of stuff. As far as resilience, climate resilience. I got a message from my home insurance company. They were willing to, for free, to come to my house, clean my gutters, do a whole bunch of other stuff to mitigate potential flood, fire, whatever. Now, they're not doing this because they think I'm cool, which of course I am, but they're doing it because their number crunchers say, look, if we spend money on this, it's going to help us down the road just from a financial point of view. So I think the county would be smart. The ladies here, we've talked about, for example, Kitsap County has a resilience program, which maybe would be a good template, but it's a classic case of pay me now or pay me later. Anyway, I think that's all I had to say for now.
I just want to ask one question.
Oh,
Okay, yeah.
I'm done.
Yeah, Constance Simpson, Union. Can I ask who or how we got the exploration of Union after new UGA came about? Just give me names, dates, whatever.
I gotta be honest, I couldn't tell you that. I'm too new on the project.
You did?
Yes.
You just got that up all by yourself?
So if the county wanted to look at sewer in Union at any point or not, so either put it on the table or take it off the table.
Okay, so how would the Union community, because this came up, 2 iterations of the comp plan before, when all of a sudden in this room was a piece of paper was with a map was put out, and it had a red line, and I asked, what does that red line mean? We haven't seen it for 2 years. And then it said that all of our shoreline in Union would be commercial. And we had a meeting with the Hood Canal Improvement Club, and we have a lot of realtors. And the realtor said to us that if something like that happened and we had sewer, et cetera, that, I mean, the whole shoreline would probably be redeveloped and be higher. And all the stuff about, and all the work we've done before about the shoreline and how to protect it, I mean, would just be gone. So how will the Union community, how can we input this proposal that you have now in a meaningful, thoughtful way? The community. Do we
Do we send it to you or do we send it to SCJ?
I think you could send it to Marissa, but I think there's specific work that we were gonna do in Union specifically. So there's gonna be more with you. in Union,
Pop-ups, we were
folks.
talking about having a pop-up in Union.
Pop-up what? Little.
So we'd actually be there in person.
Yeah,
to
oh,
talk to the
good.
community.
Okay.
So, yeah.
So are you gonna give notice about when were you gonna plan on doing that?
So right now they're just looking at, is it even feasible? So
Yeah,
we're not
okay,
even, so we're not even saying it's, you know, we don't know if it's even feasible.
okay. So it was just,
Yeah, it's just an idea.
Just an idea.
About it.
because before there have been previous county commissioners who have said, oh, wow, and that property's worth a lot of money, not, you know, we need to get out there. And therefore, I don't know, destroy what we have, which is why people are there and why the property is more expensive. So I think the community will want to weigh in on this. Okay, real good, thanks.
Can I talk real quick? I forgot something, or am I exhausted my goodwill?
Well, talk quickly.
I'll be quick. I just wanted to mention, you were talking about the baselines, how that's wrong. Not necessarily. If you're familiar with treasury yield rates, they go like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 10, 15, 20, 30. And it can be a straight line. I suspect that's not a correct straight line, but the baseline isn't necessarily an incorrect way to demonstrate it. The line may, in fact, not be correct, but you don't necessarily want to have, you know, every year listed
Sure.
forever.
There is a way in how you can do that to represent. Well, the
Yeah.
biggest thing I think that Will and I talked about is that you try, with charts, we're trying to communicate. And that sends, it gives you potentially a different message.
Absolutely, and you want to get the best projections possible, in my opinion. You want many projections.
Right.
And it sounds like you're getting inconsistent projections from different sources, so hopefully we'll get that straightened out. But I just wanted to mention that may be, in their opinion, that, in my opinion, that may be a good baseline. Now, the straight line maybe is problematical, but that's not impossible either. Might be some kind of logarithmic function or whatever, but if you look at yield curves, they can be straight lines, they can be all kinds of stuff. Sorry, I took longer than I was supposed to. Thanks for the time, appreciate it.
My name is Peggy Morrell. I live in Union. I want to base my remarks tonight on the premise that the public engagement process is a decision-making process. And as a public agency, it has a role, a critical role, I would think a required role in the update of the comprehensive plan. The theme that's been spoken to by several folks tonight about concerns around time is a big concern for me. Speaking specifically to your public engagement process, I started with 2 Zoom meetings back in March and April. This is the second or third PAC meeting I've been to. I think it's the 4th or 5th representative from SCJ that I've met. Right. I've continually, a little bit of frustration, apologies, offered with much respect. I always ask about the public engagement process. I'm always told we're updating our plan, which I have written in 2023. You identify the need for inclusivity. You identify the barriers to inclusivity. And tonight I'm getting a little anxious when a wonderful outline of a real thorough inclusive engagement plan is being presented. And we're asked for our comments and our suggestions for reaching out to these folks, because your 2023 plan implies that you're aware of the situation. And I could be wrong, but I interpreted consultant as meaning you're the ones that hold the body of knowledge that are working with staff to make this happen. And I also a little nervous. I understand, Kirsten, this is your 1 month on the job. I'm getting a little anxious. When I look at the public engagement plan with the activities you have planned, you have the questionnaire that went out in March. That's the first thing that I responded to. That was by Zoom. No mention of the climate, the required climate resilience plan from the state, no mention. The next one was public workshops, where you say you're gonna talk about the draft vision, land use, housing and transportation, nothing about climate. Studio series coming up, sub-area planning, nothing about climate. And then in the spring of 25, we have a rollout open house with the comp plan draft. The Venn diagram that you showed at the beginning of your slide deck showed the progress that you felt you were pretty much on target with the work on updating the comprehensive plan, which at the last meeting here, I understood would be done in tandem with updating the climate resiliency plan, which would be handled through an update of the hazard mitigation plan, if all that makes sense. I didn't see anything about climate in there or the hazard mitigation plan in there. And I guess the last thing I want to say is that this fall on the November ballot, we have initiative 2117, which among other things, is asking for a repeal of the Climate Commitment Act. And please correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that contains money for the public engagement process, which even though we may have an extension on this current roll of money, which I'm assuming SCJ is using for their public engagement process, what's going to happen if that doesn't pass and we lose those dollars? What is the commitment of the county and of PAC to continue public engagement around this required element of a climate resilience plan? So any one of those questions, I'd love an answer to. Yeah.
Well, from the SCJ point of view, regarding the climate action plan, we are trying to keep that as a separate topic that we do outreach on, because we're gonna kind of keep all of the billing separated to that, because there is that separate grant. And we have been told by the Department of Commerce that it's a tricky topic, that there is the funding available through this year, but depending on what happens in the November elections, the need to even have the climate plan might go away, and thus the funding for next year could potentially go away. But in the meantime, everybody's just trying to proceed as already planned and awaiting the outcome. That aside, the comprehensive plan money will still be available. And, I'll let the county, speak to what they plan to do outside of those other funding sources for climate. But like I said, we're trying to kind of keep those in separate buckets for tracking purposes. And then those things you brought up, the public workshops, draft visioning, housing, I mean, there's still more events to come. It was just a matter of, hey, what can we do to get the survey out there, to get more people to participate on just that element of the public engagement plan. It was just to try to open up discussion on the topic. I'm all with Julianne. I'm all about doing as much as you can and getting out there where the people are. That's my favorite part of planning, is the community engagement piece. She had other questions, Marissa, PAC members, I'll let you respond to.
I would like clarification on whether House Bill 1181, which was the mandated climate resiliency plan, if that is indeed tied to continued presence of the climate action of the what? Yes. If we lose, if the initiative goes through this fall and we lose the dollars, which I thought were just for the public participation piece, does that mean we also lose the required climate resiliency plan? I thought it was a requirement, was passed as a law. Separate, does anyone here, can you address that?
I'm not even familiar with the new introduced bill. What was the number?
Well, it's already passed. It was introduced last year.
1181. Yeah,
Yes.
I'm talking about the one that you were.
It requires a climate resiliency plan.
No, I know that.
The Undo
one
Initiative.
You're talking about this November.
Oh, the initiative 2117.
Sorry.
Yes.
That's what I meant, initiative.
It asked for the repeal of the Climate Commitment Act, which I thought would, if that happens, it would mean we'd lose the funding. I didn't
The
hire
funding
to-
and the requirement for the element. But I don't know. I haven't even heard of the initiative, sorry.
What, I guess that's a good question is. Funding's one piece, but does it undo the requirement?
Correct.
If it doesn't undo the requirement, but the state funding is gone. Is that then an unfunded mandate that is levied on the county to
Kind of sounds like.
address?
For the record, the grant that we applied for is also tied to Climate Commitment Act funding.
And again, I thought that it was always an unfunded mandate, just like the hazard mitigation plan says right in the beginning, does not have funding.
Okay.
You just have to create the plan. I'm not saying that.
Correct. No, I'm just dealing with the plan creation. How you fund the go-do is, well, it depends on what the go-do
Right, so
is.
that's why I
Yeah.
wasn't convinced that the mandate went away. If the climate commit.
Yeah, I don't know.
Okay,
I don't know one way or the other.
well, I'm here to ask the questions. I appreciate your time, but I also came tonight specifically for an update on the public participation plan because it was on the agenda. So to hear that we're gonna wait again till July,
August.
yeah, looking for an update. New
Well,
time.
I'll just say that activities will still occur, we don't have to wait for another PAC meeting to keep doing work in the background. So we can be working with staff, and if Julianne gets her grant, we'll pull her in as well.
All right, thank you.
If I may.
Go ahead, Rich.
I'm George Brown. I live in Taunton Shores. I've been there about 7 years now, moved from Bonnie Lake. I was the co-founder of the Downtown Developers Group. And I'm just, I can't share anything positive about how difficult that was. Primarily because it was really hard to get any participation, even from property owners and business owners downtown. And outside downtown, not a lot of people were interested, even that's where they did most of their business. I just share one example with you. The plan that we had before I even moved there 14 years before that, but there were 2 5-year plans that were developed for the downtown. Bonnie Lake had a unique situation in that there was no downtown really, just small businesses. Most of the development on Highway 410 going out toward Crystal Mountain and Chinook Pass. But so I went with the mayor and the city council. We went on a tour of different places where they had a town center. There were a number of them around. And the mayor and the council were very progressive and wanted to do that. But part of that plan was they did do some rezoning, and it affected a number of the business owners. One was he owned a real estate company, and the street revision blocked off 2 of his accesses off the main streets to his building. He hadn't gotten involved. So we got most of our responses to what was going on from after the fact, after the zoning was done, and it was pretty hard to undo that. So I wish I could offer something positive, but I was there for a number of years and participated on a regular basis with the council and the mayor. And it was very difficult. A lot of the talk has been about inclusion, getting people involved. There are so many different groups, and some people don't even use the internet. Others that you talked about homeless. We had a large homeless population before homelessness became so popular. When people were losing jobs and they moved with their families, they lost their homes, moved with their families out in the forest. And I was shocked to find out that a lot of the school kids, that's where they were living. So hopefully that'll get resolved. You would be maybe the first group that were able to solve that problem, but it's tough. So, anyway, I appreciate the meeting. There's so much attention being given to this. you're way ahead of the comprehensive, behind on comprehensive plans here, but it's going to get done, I guess.
Thank you, appreciate it. We appreciate it. Okay, if there is no further comments and stuff, commissioners online, anything you guys want to bring up, talk about? Move on?
We're good.
Okay,
Kirsten, the outreach, are we doing climate resiliency separate from everything else? Is that what I understood?
We're going to try to package it all a little bit separately. When you ask too many questions all at the same time, sometimes it's overload for folks. We are working on that. You know, some of it might be rolled out at the same time, but where you might have like a community meeting where you'd have like an easel with information about that, right? And a different one about housing. But like an online survey, it might be more useful to do that one by itself. But as we're seeing, the online surveys aren't always successful. So we'll work with staff to come up with some more options for getting info out there. And I would love to work with more community members that are interested in doing this.
I guess I just, like others, I expressed some concern. I'm very impressed with what staff and others have done with regards of efforts to get out there. But it really sounds like it's going to be frontline, talking to people one-on-one, and that's a lot of boots on ground type effort. And it's the middle of June, you know, Forest Fest is behind us. We have one major event with Allen Days coming up, and that was some of the pictures and the slides a year ago. So we're gonna have to figure that one
don't
out.
forget the Tahuya parade.
Yes, my apologies. Yeah,
Are you gonna be there?
I will. It's a 5-hour event, but I will be there.
Amazing when he knows the
Yeah.
amount of hours.
Yeah, no, I absolutely.
I'm sure he's gonna wax his car too.
Yeah, just wonder what I'll be doing there.
Yeah. Okay,
Well, I look forward to working with Marissa and the team and coming out there to the next meeting in person and any of the events that I can make it to and finding some more effective tools for talking to folks. So, but I thank you for your time today and I always appreciate feedback.
well, we're gonna be moving on to the short-term rental regulations. Staff.
Okay. So short-term rentals, so hopefully everybody knows that the Board of County Commissioners already had a couple of work sessions on the topic. They're the ones that brought the topic to the planning department to draft regulations and do some research and put out a community survey. So project roadmap. So we had a survey on the short-term rentals that opened up end of last year, November, and closed in January. Then the BOCC had their work session, their first one in February and the second one in May. At that first work session, they reviewed the main themes that came out of those over 1,500 survey responses that we got back. And then on the second work session, they reviewed a first draft of regulations and came up with several points that they thought were important and that they wanted us to, the PAC wanted us to look more into and refine. And so here we are at our June meeting to start refining those draft regulations. And this meeting is only going to go over a few of the points. It's not going to go over all of it because I'm going to have additional meetings with staff from different departments to get their input on a couple of points that the BOCC made before I present something to you. And one item that we didn't have, that's not in your staff report, that I had one of our PAC members mention that maybe we need to do a little more clarification on is the problem statement. And if you look in the draft regulations, we do have a, at the beginning of the regulations, there is a purpose statement, and let me move this so you guys can actually. So, purpose statement in there, purpose of this chapter, the draft short-term regulations is to provide the framework necessary to operate a short-term rental within the county. The desired outcome of these requirements is the minimization of impacts on residential neighborhoods, the support of economic and tourism vitality, and the protection of natural resources, public health, and life safety. So this work session is basically I'm going to go through point by point and get your input on each of the points that the BOCC made. So the first one, problem statements. Anybody have any ideas on that they want to share? PAC members.
This is where a whiteboard would come in handy.
Yeah.
Always erase. Okay, so what is the problem? Inconsistent state county policy regarding short-term rentals. That sound about right? Wrong?
Actually, well, I'll say this, the problem statement isn't actually a problem statement. Because it's a problem.
That's the purpose of the chapter. That's because this is the purpose. This is the purpose at the beginning of the chapter. This is the purpose statement, not a problem statement.
Okay, fine, okay.
This is probably a great starting point. And what I would suggest we do is let Marissa walk through a couple of the, whatever next 2 or 3 topics are. And I think as we talk those, we might, the problem state might surface itself.
Sure. No problem. No, I understand.
Let's try that.
I locked right on and said, okay, what is it?
Yeah.
We can do it that way too.
Yeah, well, I mean, I have an opinion, but let's listen to what you have.
Okay. So, like I said, I'm going to go through point by point that the Board of County Commissioners made. The first point being regarding the definition. The definition that's in the draft regulations currently is verbatim from law. There's a lot of other jurisdictions, and I provided a couple sheets of examples from different jurisdictions that already have short-term rental regulations in effect, and several of them do use. Some of them do use the definition from the state. Some alter it a little bit. But the commissioners referenced it because of there was a discussion about RVs and maybe needing to have to put some kind of distinction in there regarding RVs and whether they count as a short-term rental or not. Now, if you looked at the staff report, my opinion is, and a lot of other jurisdictions, is that they do not fit into the definition because the definition in itself says that it's a dwelling unit and RV is not considered a dwelling unit. We don't have any permitting for RVs. The only permitting we have is for RV parks. So we permit RV park, not the RV. So, so some jurisdictions approach it where they don't even, some mention it in their definition, some don't mention it in their definition. They just state it somewhere else in their standards that RVs, tents, yurts, that kind of thing are not applicable to this part of the
So
code.
they're not permanent.
Yes, or not permanent homes. So, you know, there's the option of including it, as this excludes RVs, tents, yurts, and whatever else, or it could be something that we just put in, mention in the standards. But I wanted to get the PAC's opinion.
So we're talking about whether we're including RVs or not? Or just the definition itself?
You know, whether we exclude them from the definition, or so we can include it in the definition as sorry, let me reword it. Some jurisdictions in their definitions, and you'll see up here that it already says a lodging use that is not a hotel, motel, or bed and breakfast. And then some go on to add, it does not include RV, yurts, tents as well. Some jurisdictions include it there, and then some don't. Some just include it in their standards of operation.
Well, I noticed from reading all the examples from all the counties that most of them included the word single family residence. I noticed one county said commercial, which I don't think is correct, but if they're talking about single family residence, does that kind of exclude the RVs and the tents?
Yes.
I think personally, I think we should keep it simple and then, you know, revise it as needed. Because I mean, you know, I'm sure that if we put some kind of rules in place, then over time we'll need to go back and take a look at them and revise them as, you know, problems arise or, you know, complaints. Like I noticed there was a lot of verbiage about being concerned about garbage pickup from a lot of the residents. I mean, since that's a clear problem, I think that would be a great item to put in there.
Well, we still need to stick with what staff is gonna bring to the points that she wants to make.
Yeah.
We're kind of going off.
Let's.
Well, it isn't going off really because I noticed most of the definitions had single family residence in there, and I think that's important. And it's not in the state definition.
Well, the state definition is a residential dwelling of any type, including single family residence, apartment, condominium, cooperative unit, or room in which a person may obtain living accommodations for less than 30 days, but does not include duly licensed bed and breakfast, inn, hotel, motel, or time sharing property.
This is a big can of worms.
Well, and so my basic question is, why are we adding? What is it? State law, chapter 64.37 RCW, short-term rentals. What are we adding above and beyond that is not already addressed elsewhere in code, ordinance, state law? And that's my real question is, what is the problem statement that we don't have ordinance, and therefore when I rent Jeff's place, I go poach your oysters off your beach. There's no ordinance that protects your oysters. Okay, is that the problem? Or is the problem that the ordinance exists, but no one's enforcing it when I go and poach your oysters?
There's always a paint gun, I suppose, but you're right, there's no.
Yeah, they're saying that, well, but a lack of enforcement, more regulation isn't gonna fix that.
Well, what good is regulations if they ain't enforced? That's what you're saying.
Right, and if regulation already exists, what is it we're really trying to fix here?
Again, we have to let
Yeah.
staff do their thing.
Gosh, the problem is that she asked for our opinion.
Well,
Yeah, I know, but she was gonna go, yeah, right, but still, we need to stick to
Okay.
the agenda that our staff person has.
I'm not sure we can address topic by topic until we go through 2 or 3, and then we get into the bigger issue. My opinion.
Okay, let's try to keep our comments, cause it's,
I know.
8:30, guys, and staff has been at work since, some time this morning.
And my computer died.
Oh, hey, guess what? We have discussion time.
Well, you're doing that for us, so I'll try to just
Go ahead.
jump in on Will's question. So the state law being in place, there's, as far as I know, there's no one at the state level that's enforcing it, county by county, jurisdiction by jurisdiction. And the county has no authority to enforce any of that without adopting our own ordinance. So even if at the very bare minimum, the county adopted exactly the state regulations, then we have the authority to enforce those regulations. And if you read any of the comments received, the 1,500 response, over 1,500 responses.
I read them all.
Survey plus some of the stuff, there are some things in there in which the county commissioners felt were valid enough in order for the county to look into adopting our own regulations. I mean, the
Yeah.
staff was approached by the board in order to
Yep,
look into
yep.
this, so.
So in my view, because there's another chapter and verse we're gonna get into. As far as this, I don't see any problem with it just staying as it is, because there's another level I think you're driving towards. I know there's another level I want to get to more philosophically about this whole problem. But because of where.
If I might help, this is driving me crazy.
You gotta go to the.
I'm a realtor. I'm a waterfront specialist. Most of these short-term rentals are on water, so this is my bailiwick. Been my bailiwick for 20 years, so here's the problem. People are renting their short-term rentals and they're putting an RV on it and renting them twice. And you can't have jurisdiction over something that doesn't have a title.
Oh, geez.
Right? A vehicle doesn't have a title. It has to be a permanent residence. People are putting yurts out there and renting their property twice, 3 times, 4 times. And so the notion of eliminating those as being short-term rentals makes the definition easier.
But it doesn't solve the issue.
Yes, it does.
It solves the issue he's raising.
Because the problem is that the state, a year and a half ago, requires that if you're going to have a short-term rental, you have to have a business. You have to apply for a business and you have to run it as a business. That's why one of the counties said that the place is commercial. It is commercial. These are not hotels. These are short-term rentals and they have to be run as a business. It's a commercial enterprise. That's why I think they put it in there. So that by defining what is a short-term rental, you are defining what it is that you're regulating. Thank you. I'm trying to stay quiet here.
No, you're actually helping us.
Yeah.
Very clarifying.
You gave a point of view, regardless of our opinions on it. You gave a point of view, which we appreciate. And at least.
I have plenty of planning.
No, but I'm saying, but specifically to this issue that allowed us, gives us another angle to think about.
Okay.
So I appreciate that.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
If the current, I don't know if it's current because I know things changed in April, but regarding the RVs, you cannot have an RV as an ADU. So is it a dwelling? That's the question. Does it fit the description of a dwelling?
Vehicle, it's licensed. It doesn't have to. No,
And the reality is people do live full-time in RVs.
absolutely, but that is not rentable.
but they're the owners, not the subleasee, so to speak.
I don't want to touch that one.
Each word is important in these.
Yes.
And it starts right off with lodging. And an RV isn't defined as lodging. So right away, when the attorneys get involved in that, they can. Every word is really important, that we just pass by and assume that, the hotel, motel, or bed and breakfast.
An RV doesn't pay property tax.
No. And bed and breakfast has a different definition than Airbnb.
Absolutely. Different license.
So we're gonna need Mr. Whitehead.
Did somebody just say the RV does not pay property tax? Is that what did I hear that correctly?
You did.
Yeah.
The RV doesn't.
But the property that the RV is parked on does pay the property tax.
Absolutely.
So I mean,
So that becomes a park, not an ADU.
Right.
Boy.
I'd give up right now before you get.
I suggest then we just go through the
Yes.
presentation.
That's what I was trying to do is, let's allow our staff person.
I'll go through each point and then we'll do the questions at the end.
Okay, fair.
Okay, so the next point, point 2 and 3, open here. So the BOCC indicated that there may be a need for a type 3 short-term rental that would cover standards for a higher occupancy. So in this session, I wanted us to focus more on what that occupancy limit was, not so much what standards might have to apply to that type of short-term rental. We would do that in a later session. So then, and I'm missing point 2. So type, yep, type 3.
That was like not the owner or the operator occupying.
Yes, okay.
In other words, does the owner operator reside?
Do they live there or not?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, yeah, sorry, that was correct. They were okay with the type 1 and 2, that was point 2, and then point 3 was they were interested in the type 3 short-term rental, which would be a higher occupancy limit. So this session, want to think about what that occupancy limit might be. You have the examples from the other restrictions as well in the packet. Point 4 was they discussed what determines the occupancy limit. This came up, but it was actually kind of already in the draft regulations that the occupancy limit would be based on, what the septic system or the sewer connection could handle. So all I did was include a little bit of more language in there that mentioned a sewer connection because of course, they wanted it to be countywide, so it would be in the urban growth areas where sewer connections should be available. And then I added in there, under occupancy shall be limited to 2 persons per bedroom plus 2 additional persons for short-term rental, or is approved by the Mason County Environmental Health Department, whichever is less. There may be issues where, that limit may not be able to apply the 2 persons per bedroom, and it may have to do something with the maintenance of the septic system, the history of the maintenance, and if it's functioning properly. So
It assumes it has a septic system. Because don't we still have places on the canal that flush straight into the canal? So this really wouldn't work for a situation like that.
And that's why the environmental health department would be reviewing,
Mm-hmm.
doing a review on that, so.
Or someone has an outhouse.
Then 0.5 and 6, commissioners indicated that they didn't want to see a limit per parcel within the short-term regulations, nor specify if the owner had to live on site. And then at that particular session, you know, it didn't pop into my head that we do have other regulations that are going to limit that, because we have the Shoreline Master Program limits, like if you have a residence in an ADU, the owner has to reside in one of those. So that's particular to shoreline jurisdiction, whereas the other parts of the county, we don't make any distinction whether you have to have the owner live in one or the other. So there are other regulations that are going to apply, and that the language that I added would be and shall meet all other applicable development regulations outlined in the Mason County Code. So that was to address their point that, you know, they didn't want to limit per parcel or specify a limit per parcel or where the owner had to live. You know, this is going to come back to that the rural residential part of the county allows for single family residence and 1 ADU. So the definition is going to limit you, and the code that's already in place is going to limit you to how many short-term rentals you're going to be able to have. So that's what this revision in the language was trying to elaborate on, is that we have other codes that are going to also restrict outside of the short-term rental code. So then,
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
Go ahead, Terry.
So I just have a question, because when I was a septic designer in Mason County, it was a long time ago. So things might have changed, but it was 2 people per bedroom, and that's what we designed the septic systems for. So I noticed in the previous point, it said 2 plus an extra 2. Is that a new regulation, or is that just something that was just added in?
it's very similar to a lot of other jurisdictions and their short-term rental regulations.
Okay.
And I have presented it to our environmental health people as well, and I haven't gotten any comments against that. I don't believe Ian had any comments about that.
We could ask him specifically on why that works, and it might be because it's contemporary, or, you know, it's more.
Yeah, it's not all the time usage. Well, if it's designed for if it's a 3-bedroom house and 6 people can safely use it, but you know, now that just said 8 people can use it. So I was just wondering what the reasoning or the thought behind that was.
I could get some clarification from Ian on that. Okay, and then 0.7 was the commissioner's desired application countywide. And there was already a section in the code. It didn't need to be changed. It was already there. It was just me clarifying that they did want it to apply countywide. So even in the urban growth areas as well. So then 0.8, standards for
Hey
operating
guys,
short-term
meeting.
rentals. So the commissioners desired weekly curbside garbage service or proof that service was not available with verification that there was waste removal occurring. So the language that I added beyond what was already in the draft regulations. So we have solid waste normal residential handling and removal shall be managed in compliance with Mason County Code 6.72.030H3, which is said already code, with additional requirements as follows. Curbside waste removal service is required weekly, and proof of service shall be required prior to issuance of a short-term rental permit. If point 2, if curbside service is not available at the short-term rental location, a letter from Mason County Garbage or authorized waste and recycling service provider shall be provided to the department prior to issuance of a short-term rental permit. And then Below that, a waste removal plan shall be included within the property management plan as part of the permit application. And then that might be it. So I chose those 8 for now, for discussion, because like I said, the other points, I do need to get some feedback on from the environmental health department, the fire marshal and the building department as well, before I bring some additional draft, language.
How is all this stuff gonna get enforced?
We'd have to hire a third party. I don't know that there's any jurisdiction in Washington that's adopted short-term rentals without hiring a third party. They use software, and they have software that several third-party enforcers have software that go through all of the different rental platforms. So Airbnb, VRBO, there's over 20 to 30 different platforms that people will put their rentals on. And they use artificial intelligence to go through it, memorizes pictures and photos. So if we have, if address, 123 SR 106 allows 6 people and it's advertising for 10 people, it shows up and it's like whack-a-mole. So that it would be impossible for staff to do. People are incredibly savvy.
That's what I was getting to.
And
yeah.
these, we've talked to several different software, it's essentially software companies enforcement that are as savvy. And it's just an AI game, but, so that's one thing, so just that, but we'd also have to staff it. At the beginning of this, I was thinking we'd have to, have one additional staff to go through this. I think Chelan County, who has a similar number of short-term rentals in their county as Mason, they have 2.5 staff.
Because they have 3 permit techs and their permit techs are a little bit different than our permit techs, but they have 3 that staff the short-term rental program, with one of them doing half-time enforcement. But that person also works with some of their other enforcement people in like different departments, whether it's the sheriff's office or environmental health, to work on short-term rental violations. So they use, Chelan, just for example, Chelan County uses Deckard, and they have a 24-hour hotline. People call in if they think there's a violation. So they confirm, Deckard itself confirms whether they think it's a valid complaint, if they can verify it to a point. And once they think they can, then they push it on to staff to review it further. And a lot of the jurisdictions, one thing that helps them pick out whether it's permitted or not is that the code requires all of these advertisements, rentals, to have their permit number advertised in anything they advertise. So that is one of the requirements as well. But so that is one.
Yeah, I can speak a little bit of this because there is several different layers of management that a vacation rental owner can hire. There's, like, for example, there's an outfit called Vacasa that is a full-on management company that an owner would pay on the line of about 20%. And they provide boots on the ground that actually manage the property. And they do all the bookings and everything else, and the owners are pretty much completely hands off. And then you have the VRBOs, or the what are they called?
Airbnb.
Yeah, Airbnb, where an owner pays basically just for the internet platform for advertising, which is about 5% or so that they take, but they have nothing to do with management. They don't watch the property. They're absolutely hands off. In those cases, the property owners have to police it to the best of their abilities, or, in most cases, then the jurisdictions like the county regulations take over. And with permitting and, you know, and that kind of thing. And this Decker you're talking about, people like that would actually, you know, monitor complaints. And then you have the third level where you just don't, an owner doesn't have anything. They just, you know, advertise it word of mouth and there's no regulation or no fees at all paid. So anyway, that's just my experience with how those things could be policed or not policed. Yeah.
So when we look at this and we say, well, let's just do some pretend here. We'll pretend it's one FTE that we need on staff, although Chelanna's basically 3, 2.5. We'll pretend it's one FTE. We're going to use a company to help and support us to whack-a-mole, to use Kel's analogy there.
Probably very accurate.
No, absolutely, yeah. Are we looking at then a fee base to cover that cost? Or are we looking at the taxes, you know, that are collected from these to cover that cost? Or is that a separate topic?
The commissioners in their last work session indicated that the fees for the program, we need to.
And that's what I recall too. I just wanted to hear it. And so do we have any idea what
$350 was the target that was talked about in the last workshop. But that annually?
Well,
Annually.
if I may, so if we had a company, Kel, do you have any idea what a company would cost a year to help and support a program like this?
I don't, one contract that Marissa and I found, but it was different state. But it was one particular company and it charged a base fee plus up to so many rentals and then plus, you know, so much money per rental.
Yeah.
And it would be a lot. It would probably, the fee would have to pay for our staff time plus the rental and for the enforcement company. And the taxes that would come in, that's a state requirement. We know that once the state implemented those regulations, our office that gets the lodging and excise, the lodging tax, they noticed an increase because of that. We're likely to recoup some funds that are not being currently paid. I have no
It's about
sense
400 grand.
of what that is or not, but that all goes to the general fund and would not come to the DCD department, so we would have to charge fees for the inspection and enforcement. And well, review, inspection and enforcement.
We've been using the number 1,100 short-term rentals in this county. Where did we get that number?
That was just an estimate by one of the companies that we
Thank
interviewed.
you.
So they,
In other words, we don't have addresses.
but the company that took a quick look basically used a VRBO and Airbnb and multiple other platforms and looked for, if you will, unique addresses within the boundaries of the county. So we feel that approximately 1,100, 1,200 is a reasonable starting point. We don't think it's 2,000. We don't think it's 500, you know.
So it's
call
good, it's a
11 or
warm
12.
fuzzy. Okay.
Yeah, well, a warm fuzzy, but has a solid
Right,
basis.
Yeah, because you could probably get all that off the internet just by doing search.
Yeah, and we wouldn't expect it to go down.
Yeah.
We might expect it to go up.
So that's
but it would not a lot.
So if you use the numbers that were provided, we're looking at about 400 grand.
Yeah.
That's 4 bodies.
No.
It's
Closer to 2.5.
yeah, and
So
then you have a contract side of it that has to be peeled out. So that starts to get back into where you have that one in a contract plus maybe another body. Someone we have some unknowns here, but that, you know, 350 a unit, 1,100 units seems reasonable to cover an FTE plus a contract.
Have a good one, Terry.
You know, there's some guesses in here, so, okay.
And that 350 amount was the yearly permit fee?
That's a target number.
Yeah. and
Okay, I mean, but that's what it was, a year, 350 a year per unit?
Sort of, Brad, sort
What?
of. So when
Okay,
the commissioners talked, there was an idea of a fee. That was one construct.
Yeah.
And Marissa will correct me when I get this wrong. There was also a discussion of a base fee and then a fee per night. So if
Hotel
a short-term rental was to be used, say 100 days a night versus 200, the one with 200 would pay a little more based on like a nightly usage fee. So there's some differing ideas out there. Is that still, did I understand that right?
One commissioner did mention 350 and then a per night, though I do think the per night thing is gonna be a hard thing for us.
I agree with you, but it was discussed. That's, yeah. So Brad, I think there's multiple ideas of how to potentially do it, but yeah,
Wouldn't the nightly like bed taxes also play into that the county would collect?
So
Yeah.
where just, the taxes just be the sales tax on the nightly charge.
yeah, so
It's to be determined, I would
yes,
suspect.
there's some TBD based on
Yeah.
what I understood from the commissioners.
This is gonna be a mess.
Did this include all nightly rentals or just like those that in Airbnb and the other official ones? If I have extra 4 bedrooms in my house. I could rent them out.
Oh, dear.
The neighborhood gets it, but
Do your neighbors like you?
That would be a tier 1.
Tier 1.
How many acres are you on?
how many acres? 1.5.
So let's see, an RV, 2.
Couple of years.
Yeah, I'll have a question.
there's a hand up here.
Go ahead.
You gotta stand at the podium.
I was waiting to be invited. Thank you for inviting me. I have been a renter and a homeowner both in Mason County. And first of all, I just want to say thank you for the presentation because I thought it was really clear. It was easy to follow. And I just appreciate that. And I'm just wondering if there are any regulations in other jurisdictions that consider the impact on like standard long-term rental supply. Because my understanding is one of the issues with short-term rentals is that it takes long-term rentals out of the market.
Right.
And we have so many families right now who are many generations or many families in the same home, or people who are on the streets or in their cars or desperate and trying to figure out where to be. And I want people to be able to vacation in a beautiful place, but not at the expense of my neighbors not having a place to live. And I would love to see short-term rental regulations that are frankly discouraging that and promoting long-term rental instead, because that's what's needed for affordable housing in our community.
Good point. I agree. Short-term rentals brings in riffraff that I don't want in my neighborhood.
High-end rear track.
Especially during the weekends during the summer, right?
I'm gonna say, that's me.
I shouldn't use my situation as an example, but if you read, and hopefully you got the letter from an attorney that that Totten Shores, some of the Totten Shores owners paid for. And that was an example of a couple of ladies that didn't have a business license. They weren't paying what sales tax they got from this. Airbnb don't monitor what the people are doing. You apply and they don't come and check and see if it's legitimate or not. They weren't meeting county regulations. So there's a lot of under the radar things going on there that you, and
I wouldn't doubt that a bit.
That's why I asked.
our problem was we have a community park that owners have an interest in. And the the owners of the Airbnb were using the community park, the beaches, for clams and oysters and lunch, and they had a couple of kayaks that they loaned to their, they call them, guests, rather than paying customers. And something was mentioned about monitoring and enforcement. And you wouldn't want, for one thing, the owners are not going to provide that. And you wouldn't want to have owners of other property owners do that. That was attempted numerous times when the property owner found somebody that was digging clams on their property. And they challenged that and got into a big argument. That happened numerous times. So this is a difficult situation. I've done it when I was in real estate for many years too, but it's hard to protect that. I understand the attractiveness of my house. I could, house a lot of people there, homeless if I wanted. I might put a lot, but I can't do that. So yeah, it's just, I mean, you got to come up with some kind of regulations. But like I said about lodging, they get into a definition of each word, and we had gone through all of that about, because we have deed restrictions that prevent it, and they still did it.
Yeah, but if you don't have an HOA.
Pardon me?
If you don't have an HOA that has teeth.
Yeah, and we don't, we've got
An association of
park rules, but there's a liability issue there too. Anyone that, these ladies were never there when they loaned out their kayaks. And anybody that walks on that property, we all have a legal obligation there. So and it devalues our.
Wait till they start tagging.
A lot of the people that live there, some have lived there their whole entire lives, 2 generations. Others have lived there 40 years. And they were there because that was a quiet, peaceful, off the beaten path place to move. So
Tuama Falls is difficult.
Well,
Russell Woods too.
can we use the charge the people that are picking the oysters with trespass? I mean, is trespassing not a punishable crime, misdemeanor? I mean,
Try to get the MCSO out there.
the what author?
Try to get the sheriffs out there.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, when my house is broken into, yeah.
People can walk up and down Washington beaches.
People can walk on the what?
People can walk on Washington beaches. Just because you own the beach doesn't mean that people can't walk across it.
Not true.
That is true. That's absolutely true. It is written right in state law. Please read it. It's from the Old English law, that people own the beauty and they can walk on the beach. It's just, they can't stop and they can't pick up your oyster.
What about the property parcels that have tidelands?
Right.
I'm talking about on Hood Canal.
I own it.
If we own the tidelands, then certainly the public can't walk on the beach.
Yes, they can. Please.
We're kind of getting off of what the purpose is.
Can I say something real quick? Sorry, this is probably something you already know, but I have a house on a lake. And me and friends, the companies, I'm constantly getting postcards from these companies wanting to turn my place into I guess, short-term vacation rental. So you had mentioned a number, which, yeah, you gotta have a number. It's a good place to start. Sounds like it was a reasonable process to get your first best guess, but it's probably gonna go up from my observation anyway, just because they seem to be very aggressive in doing that, which maybe you probably already know, but.
Well, thank you.
And I know there's like 3 of them that I know of, and they're probably more on my lake, but I haven't perceived any problems, but
Yeah.
maybe our riffraff is more well behaved than some of the others I've been there.
Yeah, short-term rentals are somewhere between 300 and 500 a night. I'm not sure that it's taking away from people who can't afford a rental.
Right.
If they can afford $1,000 for a weekend, they can afford a lot.
Well, the point is, they're talking about the estimated number.
Yeah, I know,
I think it's probably gonna go up, just because they're very aggressive, that's all I was trying to say.
I think there's more than just.
And it does seem very lucrative.
Guys, we need to get back
That's
to,
where
This is gonna take.
I'm waiting.
Yeah,
for-
what do we need to do to get, yeah, good job, Bob.
we need to get back to what we were supposed to be doing here.
And
Chris?
So, like I said, I was looking for comments.
You got them.
Got them.
Would you like?
Not on anything and everything though, on particular points, so we can go back.
So a couple of questions.
It's 9 o'clock,
For
folks.
the outstanding items where you're still working with other departments, when do you expect to have a response on that? A couple of weeks, couple of months?
Well. So, did we make any did we make any progress on the points tonight though? Like, did we answer any of the questions? So.
Actually,
We need to
not
answer
really.
these questions.
Okay.
Okay, that's fair. I mean,
Yeah.
there's a point.
I think,
Yeah, I mean. I guess. So what I'm hearing is. The state law is only applicable if the state enforces it and they're not going to. Therefore, we need to have. A county equivalent. So we can enforce it. Do we have staff to enforce it?
If we adopted this and we went out with third party, we would be hiring staff to manage the program. Or take over for, if we have current staff who want to do this and we'd hire staff to fill their, whatever, but we would.
So we'd either contract. Yeah, to enforce it. And would that then need to come from multiple departments? I'm thinking public health for sewer things, noise might be the sheriff's department, other things might come from.
Those things are already being done, when environmental health they do get some complaints on septic, but likely not, what they would look at as far as on an app, they'd be reviewed, they'd have to do additional review for these applications, so I can't speak to environmental health on it. If they have the current capacity to review applications that would come in, but for DCD, which is fire marshal, building and planning, we would hire staff to handle
You're one deep,
the what?
you're one deep with a fire marshal.
Meaning you only have one body.
Right, but what I'm saying is that the community development department, which handles fire marshal, building and planning, we would determine how many staff we need to handle to enforce this program, to review and enforce this program.
so by the time you get through, you're gonna be hiring at least a dozen.
We don't anticipate that we'd hire. I mean, I thought one person, but I'm thinking that's not realistic, but,
And remember, the total cost of an employee is 50% more than their
Right.
salary.
So we're paying now 100K salary, huh?
Could I ask, did you
Okay,
get
no problem.
responses mostly from neighborhoods or scattered 1,500s?
Yeah, scattered. I mean, and the survey was anonymous, so. I mean. But there was quite a.
You got
variety.
input, but you don't really have a warm fuzzy as to where they live or anything.
Yeah.
Or if it was just one person.
Definitely a lot of
shoreline.
Yeah.
Definitely a lot of shoreline.
I got a question about that though. How, because you got a lot of response compared to the other, comprehensive plan we were looking at didn't get much response, or at least not yet. How did those two different
Well,
surveys go about?
first of all, that survey was open from November to January, so that's a much longer time. And then our department did put some money into postcards to mail to marine shoreline lots. So, because we knew that's where the concentration of short-term rentals were. And I mean, we did the news releases as well. So got it out that way as well, but and honestly, this topic is
Near and dear.
Yes,
Yeah.
so the people that responded either have neighboring short-term rentals around them, driving them insane. That's just. A very broad generality, or they have short-term rentals and are making money off of it. So there was no one that had. Actually, that is not true. I read one response that was like, I don't know, I don't think they didn't see any impact. They don't really not.
Remember that one
a
response?
rental and they
Remember that,
didn't
remember
work
that,
around it.
remember that one response in there that said they should hire that person as a planner? You remember, because there was a response in there that was so clear at defining the pieces of the problem.
Who, that they should hire us?
No, I said to you, because
Oh,
I was reading through the 15. Well,
Well, it's obvious to me, we're not gonna go anywhere with this because
So
this
here-
is too big a can of worms.
so all I can do then is table it. The
No,
next-
we need to continue discussion.
No, you
because-
table it for the next meeting.
we'll have additional work sessions.
That's true.
Yes.
True.
So maybe you need more time to think about these particular points.
Well, since we were gonna take no action on it, this meeting, and it's,
Well, what about increasing the county permit fee for people that have the businesses to $10,000 a year? And then hire the people to enforce it. And at that price of a permit fee, then they will not make money having short-term rentals. I mean,
But it's paying. That's why you.
same way the state health department legislates non-smoking by making cigarette taxes so damn expensive.
I make a
So
motion.
you price it out.
Marissa, can you forward that slideshow to the PAC members, please? I think that
But
would,
I'll be posting it online too.
thank you
Okay.
very much. That'd be very
Okay.
helpful to sort of.
Jeff here has made a motion,
Just made a motion
and your motion was,
to table this to the next meeting.
and do you have a second?
I'll say.
Carlberg,
Moved and seconded. All those in favor, please say aye.
aye,
Opposed? Okay,
shoot 'em.
this is tabled to the next time we meet. But, oh man, this is ugly. Okay. Hearing, no further discussion. And it's 9:12.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to adjourn the meeting. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Rename the comp.
Motion passes.